You're listening to the One Up Network. Welcome to the One Up Yours podcast for Friday, March 23rd. I'm Garnet Lee, and next week, you and I are going to be gone, Shane.
That's true.
So you guys got to get it in.
You guys are going
now.
away together?
We are taking requests for the John and Luke show next week.
And request
actually,
guests.
Can we rename it?
I thought we had a rule that if two of us were here, we wouldn't do a podcast.
Well, we're overthrowing that rule next week.
You made that rule.
Yeah.
Apparently, if John and Luke aren't here, we don't do a podcast. But if Garnet and I aren't here,
Nah, they got to soldier on. They're going to rock it. They're going to definitely rock it. As a matter of fact, I think Sean's going to maybe
Let's
do
not
it.
make promises that we don't know if we can keep yet.
Oh.
It might just be the John and Luke show.
Yeah.
I tuned in for that.
We're just going to sit here and we're just going to talk about relationships,
Well, I'm glad I'm missing that one.
yeah. Yikes.
cooking tips.
Shane, I think that you'd be able to participate pretty well in
I have some
relationships.
good advice.
Some
But actually,
good stories.
before we get started, I need to thank, we always put the call out for if listeners want to send us alcohol, we're all for it. And one of our loyal listeners, Johnny, once again, last year he sent us these special rums from, Guatemala, and they're fantastic, and we're enjoying them all right here. So thanks again. And if you ever want to send us stuff, just go to the boards and let us know.
Get in touch with
Get
someone.
in touch, yeah.
Yep. I'm a little partial to single malt, but, you know.
We like it all.
We like it all.
And it helps fuel the podcast. So
Did
thanks.
you hear about the pie that Jeff Green on GFW got?
Yeah,
He didn't trust
we
it.
got it for Legendary.
Yeah, he
Thread.
didn't trust that pie and did not eat it.
He still has it because there was talk of being a little concerned about it.
That could be poisoned pie.
It actually was. I saw it down here this morning when I did DLTV. it was sitting right over there on the table.
Oh, God. I didn't realize that it was left on here. Legendary Thread. This is going well.
Anyway, that's Luke and John's here and Shane's here. Andrew's running the boards. We're ready to rock a pretty awesome show. We do have an excellent, as expected, what you've been playing in the first segment, although it does not include Warhawk. So
The PlayStation 3 listeners just quit. Don't worry, kids. We'll talk about Devil May Cry.
I was gonna play, but I had a meeting, and you have to be there at a certain time, and I wasn't available.
We have plenty of time to talk about Warhawk.
Yeah,
ample time before it hits whenever late summer or early fall. Then in the second segment, because of all the hullabaloo over exclusives, we couldn't avoid that subject this week. So we're definitely going to dig into exclusives, how they impact next-gen consoles, what it means for the future of at least this generation over the next 12 to 18 months.
And we got another exclusive, too, today.
Boogie.
Yesterday. Boogie, right? Shane, which we talked about weeks ago. Shane.
Oops.
The embargo buster.
Hey.
Harder.
So what you been
Break down that embargo.
God. Break down that embargo, girl.
All right, and then in the final break, of course, Luke already excited and ready to rare with some excellent
Yeah,
news.
it's a good week.
His news burgeoning from him.
It is coming.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, so who wants to kick it off here? Who wants to talk about what they've been playing? Shane, what have you been playing?
I haven't ever played a whole lot. I've been playing Dawn of Mana. I'm reviewing that for the PS2, and I've got to say, as an old school Secret of Mana fan, with each new Mana release with Square Enix, I get a little more disappointed by this franchise. Because it used to be really cool, and just the recent releases just haven't been like the old game. Like,
Didn't have the key, but I saw you were playing Kingdom Hearts the other day.
No, that wasn't Kingdom Hearts. That was Dawn of Mana. It looks a lot like Kingdom Hearts, except not as good or as interesting. But I mean, it's not a terrible game. I mean, I'm making it sound like a bad game, and it's not. And it's very, it's a decent action RPG.
So if, like, Kingdom Hearts is like, average, then this is like...
Kingdom Hearts is not average. Kingdom Hearts is actually a really good game, and this is kind of like Kingdom Hearts. But
Depending on how much you like Simba.
the problem with it is they went really over...
Under the sea.
Actually, the Little Mermaid part of Kingdom Hearts 2 is completely, like I can barely sit through.
It changed my world.
No, it is like an abomination.
Are you kidding me? I've seen the Ariel over at your desk.
No, the funniest thing is Brian Intar, who also works at EGM, is like the biggest jock you ever meet, and he loves Kingdom Hearts, and he's totally gay for it. And like watching him play the Little Mermaid part, he's like really into it. Is embarrassing. But back to Dawn of Mana, they went overboard with Havok physics. They like bought Havok physics. They're like, oh, like American gamers love Havok physics.
That game has Havok.
Physics
Why?
all up in your junk. You can like pick things up with this like grappling hook.
All up in our junk?
Yeah, and everything has physics, but
You put the control in your lap when you play, don't you?
maybe. But like they went overboard, and it's inconsequential. Like the overall gameplay, it doesn't affect it that much, and it just seems like they went way too far in that direction.
He's like hot-wired the trance vibrator into that thing.
No,
I could see you sitting there, and I was like, I hope Garnet's not going to make a 6-axis joke, because that'd be obvious and not funny. And then you're like, I'm going to make a trans vibrator joke, and I was like, oh, even worse.
But I'm not prepared to like completely diss this game. I'm still playing through it, and it has some fairly good production values, and the game.
Yeah, but the thing you were explaining to me about it resetting every level, that was weird.
Yeah. The other annoying thing is you get these upgrades during each level, and then when you get to the next level, you reset. So all those skill bonuses you got, like, oh, have fun, get them again.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that.
What else do I play? I played that Boom Boom Rocket a little bit, and I got to say, not impressed.
We all play Boom Boom Rocket.
Not
did.
impressed.
What did I call it? Guitar Hero.
Beatmania.
No,
It's Beatmania.
It's
what it
Beatmania
is
with
Beatmania
fireworks.
or DDR, but without a dance pad. Maybe you can use a dance pad. In that case, it'd be more fun. But instead, it's just like watch me press up, down, left, right, X, A, B, Y to like public domain classical music. So
No, it's not. It's not. Well,
Dude, that shit is public domain.
No, as I say, it's not classical. It's like It's like my first mixology.
Well, it's like Bach. It's like Bach on speed, or one of those things where it's like watch these rocked out versions of the William Tell Overture. It's like if your grandpa likes to watch the the 4th of July fireworks with Boston the Pops, this is the game for him.
It's like I just got Audacity. Look what I can do.
Yeah, it's completely underwhelming considering the pedigree of who's publishing it.
That
and who
sounds
developed
awesome.
Well, and what's really crazy is, so I guess it wasn't originally Bizarre's
It's
game.
not a Bizarre game.
It's Pogo, right? It's a Pogo
Yeah.
thing.
it.
That,
That makes more sense.
Yeah, it's not like people need to not think of this as like, oh, it's what the Geometry Wars guys did. It's like,
Right.
no, it's what like maybe some guys who like tested Geometry Wars have been asked to do in
this
their
is-
spare time.
EA just sussed onto the fact that this whole music rhythm game thing is sort of, fuck yeah. Let's do one of those.
Well-
Did you see the NPDs for Guitar Hero? We gotta have some rhythm games.
So this game made me want to dig out my copy of Fanavision because it's a lot better.
well, come on, that's not.
Actually, you
Fanavision's a whole
over-explained
other
it.
game.
It isn't up, down, left, right, XABY. It is just XABY.
The single player game, or the multiplayer game is up, down, left, right as well.
Does it?
Yeah.
The multiplayer game, what?
We didn't notice that in the multiplayer.
Maybe it's a
game
different
of
level.
Boom, of Boom Boom.
There's some. Yeah.
It was just on the colored
No, it's
buttons.
a- no,
It just
it's-
I
gives you
did.
colours.
I played two different levels, and some of them were up, down, left, right on the
No,
D-pad.
so what you're seeing, Shane, is like the arrows that it points correspond to the face buttons, but there's no
in
D-pad.
case you're colorblind,
There's no
it's-
D-pad.
Not bad, it's just 4 buttons.
No, really, because I swear, like some of them showed the button like letters, and some of them showed the directional arrows.
Oh, you can change that. So in the configuration, you
okay.
can do it one of 3 ways. You can have it
So
say.
So it's even
It's-
simpler
yeah.
than I thought.
It is, yeah,
It's 4 buttons, and,
Wow.
and it sometimes mixes things up by
Yeah,
making you
if
press
can,
2 at once.
If you can use a dance pad, then it does have a little more, reason to exist.
Shauna was checking out with me the other day, and I'm like, this is like the perfect game because you can hang out, smoke a cigarette, and play a game at the same time because you only need one hand while you're playing it. You're like, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Great.
Well, Miyamoto wants you to only be able to play the next Mario game with one hand, so maybe you'll be able to smoke with him too. That'd be awesome, right?
No.
You don't think so?
Good, because that's really, up and with the times. Smoking.
Yeah. It's, welcome to 1985. Oh wait, Nintendo was just getting good then.
Well, I mean, it's key for PS3. That's why they're coming out with that little smoke filter thing that snaps onto your PS3.
What are you talking
You didn't see that? Oh, man. It's like,
I did see that, actually.
I knew someone saw it, like trying to pull some shit on me like
I was
that.
just about to say, where is this coming from, Garnet? I have.
Nyko is making smoke filters that pop onto your PS3.
If you're a heavy, 4-pack-a-day smoker, this will keep the nicotine from building up in your PS3's vents.
So that's all you got is Boom Boom Rocket
Oh.
and Mana?
Sorry.
Oh, that's a really specialized piece of
Isn't it?
equipment.
Isn't it?
Wait, no, you've been to
Well, what's-
Japan. I mean, they smoke a few cigarettes there.
Okay, what sucks is we have the darkness,
That's
and I
fine.
really
They don't buy PS3 games there.
Well, we have the darkness.
we have the darkness, and I really wanted to play it, but I haven't got a chance. Maybe this weekend. We have the darkness
Preview though.
preview build. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Would Matt
Seriously?
Leone run off with it?
He may have
I'm
ran,
sure
into,
that-
ran into the bathroom with it.
That's like one of the 3 games he liked.
I love Matt, like, with his favorite games, right? It's like nothing else. But
That's mine.
He only likes 3 games. He likes God of War, he likes Mario, and he likes the darkness.
No, okay, 4. He likes Splinter Cell.
Okay.
oh,
right.
yeah, dude. Splinter Cell, it's all about that.
There's some hidden violence to that boy, huh?
Can't you tell from his
Yeah.
from his polo and khaki?
Yeah, I was
Like, come
gonna
on.
say, mild-mannered golfer by day.
If the office is ever wiped out, we know who the number 1 suspect is.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus. It's okay, he doesn't listen.
Well, that makes it okay.
Okay. John, you have anything on your
John's
list there?
been playing something awesome.
As promised, I played Hannah Montana.
The game that in the months of December and January outsold every single
Exactly.
PSP game.
I took one for the team. I had to go beg for it because it's $30 on DS. It's an expensive DS game.
It's selling like hotcakes.
And because it's selling like hotcakes.
And the sad part is that our vice president of editorial content direction can't afford a $30 game.
can't or won't afford a $30 game.
So my question is, how does this game, use the license? And she is one of the big stars from my home state of Kentucky, and I'm
Yes, she is.
curious how she's represented in it.
The story of the Hannah Montana game, Shane, is that you have to protect her secret.
What is her secret?
Oh,
The same
brother.
thing every 14-year-old girl
in Kentucky has.
Daddy,
Her daddy is Billy Ray Cyrus, and he would never touch her that way.
it doesn't count if you use the 3rd one.
What?
Okay, in Kentucky. Okay, this is an off-color joke, but I'm from Kentucky, so I can tell it. You know what they call a Kentucky virgin? A girl who's fast enough to outrun her daddy.
Oh my God!
I'm from there.
Yes.
I can say it.
My podcast has been saved by Shane in the first 10 minutes.
You're listening to One Up Yours, part of the One Up Radio Network.
What was I
So
saying?
you're trying to protect
You're
Hannah
protecting
Montana's
the
secret.
Shane is totally backing me up here in the last few weeks. You know, he's like elevating me to a higher level.
Am I?
Yeah, by throwing out joke grenades like.
Okay.
Don't worry. You'll be wrong about something very
So
soon.
Hannah Montana, you're protecting her secret.
I'll talk to you about this,
Yeah.
Luke. So let's ignore the other two. Let's practice for next week. It's a point-and-click adventure. A lot like old LucasArts and Sierra games. Probably more so than any other game that we've talked about in terms of point-and-click adventures over the last few weeks. It's like hardcore, old school, but you've seen the show. You told me all about the show.
I've
Shane.
never seen the show. But
So,
are you hunting for hot?
Hannah Montana-
Are you hunting for hot spots like an old like Scum game or a Sierra game?
Well, in a way, but I mean, it's her in her hometown, and so
how's she look?
Oh my God!
dude, awesome. So Hannah Montana is the pop star character, and then she's, I think, called Millie or something. By that, I'm probably
This is more Hannah Montana than I ever expected.
Yeah, and
Completely.
and then she has to, and there's someone has sent her a card saying that they know her secret, and the whole thing is like a detective story. She tries to unravel who it is of her acquaintances.
That's like what last week's episode of South Park was about.
Yeah,
That was
little
a
bit.
different secret, though. So, are you cutting the chase and saying you like this better than Hotel Dusk?
No,
Okay,
no.
good.
But it was surprisingly fully formed as a game. No, don't.
Well, licensed games are getting better.
So what you're saying is
Are you saying it's
already starting to mature?
Are you saying it's fully developed?
It has blossomed. No, actually, so I wanted to get a hold of a copy of this game, and it's published, but it's a Disney thing. And I went to the PR agency. I'm like, can I, you know, we saw this thing is selling really well. We never got a copy in the office. We never saw screenshots, and we found out that Disney had specifically said that they didn't want anyone to see this game in the press that didn't deal with the core demographic of the game, which is
traditionally, if at EGM we ask anybody for like a kids license game, they're like, "Is this for Sean Baby?" Like literally, they'll ask that, and we're like, "Yeah."
so it's aimed at 5 to 12-year-old girls.
So Highlights had the exclusive.
So would a 5 to 12-year-old girl be able to enjoy it?
I think so, yeah, and I think any parent of a 5 to 12-year-old girl would be able to join. In fact, there was
she
a guy.
can crawl.
There was a guy on our boards. Hang on, I need to find him. Mick, who, as part of a longer thread that I'll get into later on that Beige had brought up, but said as the father of a daughter, he's bought the Hannah Montana game and the That's So Raven game and the Little Mermaid game on DS. And he says his daughter is really into games, and he says some of the licensed games are actually really good, but he's noted that the industry, and particularly the games press, never pay any attention to it. And the reason because of that is because, I mean, it's a combination of things. One of them is a lot of stuff is crap, and the press would call it out as being crap, because for a long time saying something was a kid's game was a way of trying to bury the fact that it wasn't, that they'd not really put much effort into
Right.
it. Whereas this is, it's a point-and-click adventure. You use the touchscreen on the bottom, and the map and the inventory stuff comes up on the top screen. And it's got a lot of environments, and the art's really good. And it's got, you know, I mean, in terms of what I know about, I mean, I checked out like 5 minutes of the show, and it was on TV, and it was a bit, but I can understand why it's selling so well, because it's a pretty big game, and it has like all this dress-up stuff in it, and
Right, that demographic is huge on DS, and there are a lot of kids buying games. And a few weeks ago, I mentioned that Code Lyoko game, which is coming out. And actually, I got a build of it just today. I haven't checked it out yet, but I want to, because it uses the license really well. It has pretty impressive graphics, and I think if you're a kid, if you're like a 10-year-old girl, and you get this game and it's actually like uses the license well, that's great.
I think Disney have been very clever about the way they've targeted all the people that played Nintendogs. And then, this is something for them to graduate on. It's a little more involved, it's a little more complex, but it's about talking to your friends, and you find things, and you can dress her up, and you can customize the clothes, and then there's the adventure and the story and the music, and there's a lot of stuff. So, I mean,
developers, publishers getting a little wiser to the fact that maybe the younger end of the spectrum is a little more attuned to gameplay than they thought.
Yeah, they're very discerning, and they've grown up with games, so that they're going to be able to spot crap really quickly.
They're more savvy than we were when we were little kids playing Atari.
Yeah,
definitely.
So I mean, I can understand why we've been talking about it for so long. I mean, there's that many DSs out there. A lot of them are aimed at, this is Nintendo proving that you can get young girls to want games. But that wasn't all I played. I mean, I played that. I played some Graw 2, a little bit.
How's the online community?
So let's get the Graw 2 comparison out there, because I've been playing each night. I've been playing a little Graw 2, and I've been playing a little Rainbow Six Vegas, because last week, after I said that I thought Vegas looked a little better, I took a lot of flack on the message boards, and I've compared both of them in detail. Okay, first of all, yes, Graw 2 looks a lot better than Graw. I never said that they were the same. Obviously, they polished that engine a lot. But I'd say now that I've really gone into it and looked at it a lot, that there's different things that those games do well. What do you think?
Well, I mean, Rainbow Six has always been more intimate, I guess.
Yes.
It's more about, your guy and the couple of guys with you, whereas Graw is more of a war scenario. I could imagine that in the single-player campaign that the whole sort of deserty, wastelandy vibe gets a little old.
See, I think the environments being so similar in Graw 2 to Graw 1, whereas the Vegas environments are so crazy, austere, that's the difference. And it seems old to you just because it looks like the old game.
See, I will buy that, except for the fact that going in there and looking at it, and whether or not the Graw 2 engine could do it if they were doing it. Here's one thing. The Graw 2 is in big environments. So, of course, by virtue of the fact that they're doing these big environments, they can't get down into individual details. Their textures actually are really good, on buildings and on their environments, like the rocks and all the kind of ground.
Well,
it's dusty Mexico
but isn't the
again.
lighting and smoke better and stuff? Like little things like that?
It is. It's not, there's obviously another layer that they wish they could do, because when you're in the helicopter and you're flying, doing that pre-mission flyby, and you look out over the burning city of Juarez or whatever, it looks really fantastic. And then you get into the game and there's one rendering pass that now has been removed, so it's not quite as nice. And when you're in the casinos, then in Rainbow Six Vegas, the amount of special effects that they're doing, especially if you're around the slot machines and all that kind of stuff, they look really impressive. I still say that I think that up close, Unreal Engine 3 in Vegas looks better, but Graw 2 definitely does large spaces. Are there any Unreal 3 engine games that are going to be doing big spaces? I mean, has anyone proven you could do a big space with it?
I'm sure UT is going to do them.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the video from that we had on Game Videos a while ago,
right? Okay.
The UT environments looked bigger, and they had you sit on that Back to the Future 2 style hoverboard to get around. Because they were so big.
So big, you need a hoverboard. Yeah, and the other thing I played a little bit of Oblivion on PS3. A little bit. Teeny bit.
And? Are you sucked back in again?
Well, I was on the brink of getting sucked back in anyway, because Shivering Isle is next week.
That's not on PS3.
We have Shivering Isle, actually, if you want to start it now. We have it.
Oh, you do?
ADGM, yeah.
Oh, awesome. So, I mean, I checked out the PS3 version to see how different it was, and I'm with what Ribicki said in his review. I mean, if you've not played the 361, I mean, it's fantastic. If you have, there's no reason to play it again on PS3.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, and I was looking on the boards. There were a lot of side-by-side comparisons where people were saying, actually, it is really different. But Garnet was saying that there is a graphics patch coming for 360 later that is going to improve a lot of those
Luke,
things.
we should hit up Pete Hines tomorrow and see if we can find out when that update's going to hit 360.
Because
it's going to make a big difference.
It sounds like the textures are a lot better, the draw distance is better, and the loading times are substantially better.
You noticeably don't get that weird muddiness. I mean, they fixed it a little bit with a patch a while ago, and there's a better one coming on the
interesting phenomenon. Version. I can say shaders, and John starts to fall asleep.
Yeah.
I've also noticed that when I'm talking about games that I'm playing, you start talking.
And I actually noticed that this time he got irritated, and here's why. Because you talked about the same fucking shit you talked about last week. It was we're talking about a game from November, and we're having a flashback to last week's conversation about games from November. Hey, so I was playing Gears of War this week.
Hey, and I hear Viva Pinata is really cool. Yeah, let's move on.
All right, everyone's done trolling. I tried to play God of War 2 and got to the Colossus fight and turned it off.
What?
I know.
You don't like fun?
No, the reason I tried to play it was because I was trying to play the Shadowrun. The reason I ended up playing God of War 2 was because I was trying to play the Shadowrun beta, and when I got to the matchmaking screen, the Shadowrun beta, it would disconnect me from the internet and log me out of live. And I was like, oh, this is a fantastic beta. So I had to move around the router and everything, and disconnect my computer and do all these wonderfully inconvenient things, and then finally got to play it. And it's pretty much what we said weeks and weeks ago, where it's like Halo plus Counter-Strike plus Magic, and it's stupidly complicated. So it comes down to how much time do you want to learn to play this game, and then will this be the right kind of game for me and 4 other friends to play, where Skip buys Tree of Life and Garnet buys Resurrect and John buys Smart Link and you play Phantasy Star, and then I buy Teleport or something like that. It's about will there be a cohesive team to sort of
how full featured is the beta? Does it have all the classes and levels and everything?
It has all 4 of the race, it has all 4 of the races and has 2 of the 9 maps. and the 2 maps.
Oh, wait,
kinda-
the final game only has 9 maps.
yeah, the final game only has
How
9
many maps does a single player game have?
There's no single player.
Oh.
I hope it's $39.99.
When are we going to find out the pricing on that?
I don't know. We'll talk about fast in a little while,
All right,
I'm sure. But Garnet, you played the beta. Do you like it? Do you have your character class set up?
Well, no, you know what? That's actually, I would agree with you about it being too complicated because I've played this game now several times and I still don't know what the most powerful combination is or even exactly what I want to play with. I kind of, go back and forth. I know one thing I need SmartLink.
Yeah, that's the first thing I buy.
SmartLink is
that the reticle on the gun thing
That's
that
the
you
thing
were
that makes it
telling
fun.
me about? Oh.
Yeah, SmartLink is the thing that automatically prevents you from ever doing any friendly fire because even if you pull the trigger, it doesn't kill them, and then it enhances your accuracy with every weapon.
So do you have to burn a slot on something just to make it more convenient? Is that essentially what it's doing?
Yeah, so the entire game is built around those trade-offs. It's all built around trade-offs of which pieces of tech and which pieces of magic you want and which ones you're willing to give up.
Can you play it without a gun? I mean, can you legitimately go through with
Yes.
magic and the sword and
Yes.
never need a gun?
Very much so. Yeah, you can totally do that. But you won't be able to do it off the bat because now here's where it gets very much like Counter-Strike. And this is where the Counter-Strike comparisons come in. When you start off each match, which is a setup of a number of rounds, you only have a limited, what do you start with, 2,500?
2,000.
2,000. And so you're not going to have enough money to buy the katana. And you can't even buy the katana. Isn't the katana more than that?
No, the katana's $1,250.
Okay, so you can get
can't,
that.
But SmartLink's 2,000, Tree's 2,000, Resurrect's 2,000, Teleport's 2,250, SMG's 500, Rifle's 750. I've played way
So
too
Memorize
much.
the.
You have played a lot.
That's a little scary.
Yeah, I played a lot. I played a lot.
So
over
to
the
be
weekend.
effective with the katana, you're going to have to build up some money because you need to teleport for sure.
Yeah, if you're just going to be melee only, you absolutely want teleport.
So what do you think of the odds of Microsoft completely shocking us all and making this a download-only game?
The box art's been released.
Well, Mitch did say when he was on here last that they had talked about making it a download-only game. So, I mean, in light of recent events,
Yeah.
maybe that will be.
I don't know
download-only game.
the size, the footprint size of the game engine, but the maps alone, I think they'd be better off distributing it originally, at least with some
Well,
maps.
2
on
maps.
disc.
I mean, was it
1
a huge
gig is a
download?
download.
It was a
for
gig.
2? Oh, that's a lot to download.
I think it's going to be a retail game.
Yeah.
I have a sinking feeling it might be $59.99.
Sounds like there could be no
Yeah, I don't think they can do it at 59.
It's not. It's a little bit half baked in that you expect a lot more for $60. But again, it is a lot of fun. I did play a ton of it, and I'm starting to finally get an understanding when I'm playing of
There is bot play.
what I want to do, and
Oh, you can set up.
You can set up bots.
So it's just that, but that's the only single.
Yeah, so you can set it up to teach yourself and learn. As a matter of fact, that's what they do in the tutorial levels is you're playing against bots to teach you how to do stuff.
But we talked about at lunch this week was what they should have been doing with this game all along. If they were really serious about trying to make this a shooter and a premier type shooter, which if they were going to, it would have been done earlier because it's going to be against the Halo beta right now. And who's going to play Shadowrun? They can play Halo. But they should have been going through the abilities, had a community manager outlining and this is teleport, and have that be on the Shadowrun site. Every single week, a new ability with a video of that ability in action, and over the course of a period of months, you have videos showing how to combo this up. So by the time the game ships, you know what everything does if you're a hardcore fan, and then you just get right into it.
And I think the second piece of that is what I talked to them about, which is that they should have, at the beginning of the game, instead of just tutorialing you on how to use stuff, given you combos that the testers had determined are really, really effective, easy combos to learn how to use at first. If a lot of people gravitate towards using glider and teleport and then one other thing. So maybe that should be SmartLink. So maybe they should teach you, if you have glider and teleport and SmartLink and a machine gun, here's how you play.
This could be a really daunting game. And if a regular person jumps onto any online game and gets their ass kicked, it's scary. But this game, regular guys jumps on, people are going to be warping around, flying, shooting lasers. They're going to be I'm terrified.
Right, it doesn't seem to have anything that's consistent with what your expectations of a shooter are either.
Right.
People are gliding and warping and switching things out and comboing
Turning
stuff,
into
and you're
smoke.
But I mean, at the same time, the complexity is what the hardcore players want.
yeah.
It's really niche. It's going to be like Counter-Strike, where within a couple of weeks after it coming out, anyone who's a noob and comes on there better be ready to suffer through.
I think Luke's point: 427,000 people potentially playing Halo 3.
Yeah, I mean, what are you?
That's devastating. That's devastating.
And you know what? The Halo 3 beta will probably have a third of the maps that are in the final game.
That's impressive.
The 3 maps. I mean, I'm expecting, like we said all along, the maps that EGM saw back in October.
When's that beta going live?
I don't know. Late spring. They're saying now, which you got to think, May, June.
All right. So when that does actually roll around, I want you to give me some tips on how to enjoy
Halo.
better.
Okay.
Because I like shooters, and I play a fair number of online first-person shooters, but I have never been especially adroit at Halo 2.
Okay.
Vocab word number
Nice.
one dropped in there.
He actually said
I hope
austere earlier.
Frapman made note of that.
I also said,
Should we
I also
repeat
said,
it again?
Yeah, I did say austere earlier.
I don't know. Adroit.
Excellent.
So what else? I played World of Warcraft.
That's awesome, dude.
I
good to
jumped
get
back
back in
in.
there.
I started playing a warrior, actually, a low-level warrior, and then I've been bitching on like Legendary Thread to some guys at Blizzard about how like I want to play a paladin, but I don't want to play a paladin from 1 to 60. Like I want to play a new character from 60 to 70. Like so. How do you do this? So I was talking to some of my guys in my guild last night, and I'm probably just going to buy one from someone in the guild. Buy it and transfer it over.
That sounds fun.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you like home, dude. I mean, I think that you have a very limited understanding of community, and all your like decrying of World of Warcraft is completely evidence of how little
I used
community
to go
you
on
understand.
IRC. I know what Warcraft's like.
Warcraft, dude. Warcraft is not like ours.
I'm making fun. Oh, God. What are you playing, Garnet?
It's more like watching your UPS tracking numbers.
Oh, God.
I have a package coming.
You're playing a ton of games.
Yeah, so we went to that event the other night for EA. So we can talk about 2 games I've been playing. Well, so we talked about Command & Conquer 3 a bunch. I'm not going to go back into the game part, but I want to talk about the Battlecast part again because the Battlecast is pretty cool. They're trying to take real-time strategy and move it more into like the arena of shooters for multiplayer spectator sport. And I think this is going to go over big like in South Korea. I think it'll go over big in LAN parties.
A pure Korea play.
Yeah, it is, really, right? To kind of upstage StarCraft.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's about time. StarCraft's, like 7 years old?
Yeah, so Battlecast is really...
only for a couple more months.
Yeah. Who knows what we might be coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so it's another one of those worst-kept secrets, isn't it?
It's getting there. Yeah, it's
Well,
getting.
the fact that there's some big event
there's
isn't
a
a
big
secret.
ass event that Blizzard's like, sending invites out to in South Korea.
We have an event in Korea. What could it possibly be for?
Korea,
Affirmative.
huge Diablo fans, huge.
Affirmative. Anyway, so the whole Battlecast thing is cool. It's got 2 parts to it. It has the part that's in the game, wherein if you're playing a game, you can make someone into a commentator, and they can host like a commentated version of the game where you'll see their screen instead of you wouldn't see Shane's screen or Luke's screen. You'd see the screen that John was actually watching the game through. So you can move around the focus. And then
you're like the director and the producer of the cast?
Exactly. And so you can move the screen around to focus on whatever part of the attention you want to do. Using VoIP, you can talk about what they're doing. So you can say...
It'd be great when you have to get up, take a piss or something, and you're just pointing at completely the wrong thing, and all the people are like, what the fuck are you doing?
The idea of watching people playing RTS is so alien to me.
Yeah, but you know what? For hardcore players, this will also be good for clans who want to like teach their new clan members how to actually play the game well. Because
God, and watching other teams and seeing how they do things and how they coordinate. I mean, these guys
Wasn't watching StarCraft a huge deal?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Monstrous.
Yeah.
And so they also include a telestrator side of it, so that while you're talking about it, you can like highlight this little pen and then circle stuff. So like what they were showing was guys like circling. Well, here, look, he's built a second war factory, and now he's cranking out mammoth tanks, and he's like circling the mammoth tanks. And he's like, okay, now he's got 6 mammoth tanks. I think he's going to take an attack over here, and he like draws an arrow on the map, like where he thinks the attack's going to be, and then he like points out the base stuff. So anyway, it's really.
So you could be the John Madden of
I would actually,
That's
I would
exactly
actually
it.
buy that game not to play it, but I would want to be like the spectator or like the fucking announcer guy.
So
that's what I would want to do.
The second side of this is the website side, where they have like this whole YouTube thing going, where you're able to not only rate players and replays, but rate commentators. So they're going to have like a whole system set up to actually have the best commentators rise to the top and be able to host and run the best games.
Yeah, I need to do this.
So it's pretty cool.
Luke Smith presents Shane Beddenhausen versus Garnet Lee.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Then I'm going to bite some chicks in the ass like Marv Albert.
Yes!
And it counts!
So the other EA game you're playing is the Medal of Honor, right?
Medal of Honor Vanguard. Yeah, I played through the whole thing on Wii.
And I hear throwing grenades is awesome.
Really? Really, like throwing grenades is the lure of the Wii? Like, really, what's next? Are people going to start to get excited about getting in the Warthog? Like, when you waggle the thing, and it just goes, like, when you twist the controller in Resistance 8, and you just board that Jeep right away, it's like you're pulling the door open. This is fucking awesome!
Dude, when I roll the toilet paper roll, it's amazing.
So the game's a steaming turd, right?
Well, that might be it. Well, that's actually not too strong, probably. Why do we keep putting shooters on the Wii? Why? I don't get this. We stood there and looked at it. Which one looked
My
better?
question is, why does the PS2 version look better?
Why?
Why?
That's a damn good question. Why does the PS2 version look
that's a
better?
good
And
question.
why are you forcing shooters onto a platform like the Wii that's not it's not the right place?
What were your 2 favorite parts of it?
Well, throwing grenades, and the one part that's really cool is parachuting. Parachuting, you like hold the nunchuck and you hold the Wiimote like you're holding the strings on your parachute, and you actually fly your parachute, which is really cool.
That sounds pretty cool.
The 2 times
Sounds
that
like
you
a
do
great mini game.
it would have been a good
thrilling.
mini game. Anyway,
How long does that bit last?
about 10 seconds twice.
Because that was the game. I think that when I was down at EA, that was the game that I played down. Like way back when. I think I wrote about the next gen versions of the game. We have to check it out because you parachute in. It's like dynamic, right? Dynamic where you can parachute in, and wherever you parachute in, it changes. No, it doesn't.
That's the next gen
That's
version.
the next gen version.
The Wii version, but the Wii version's next gen.
New gen.
Man, I'm telling you, I put it in. The best way to describe this is exactly what I put it in my review, which is that it's just like postcards sent from another Medal of Honor.
But to be honest, people are enjoying the Godfather for Wii, so it seems like people are into these EA like transplanted games.
Yeah, and fans may. I mean, look, Medal of Honor Vanguard might be a big hit on PS2 because there's a ton of PS2 fans.
Yeah.
There's a ton of Medal of Honor fans on PS2, and I have no problem with you playing it on PS2. I haven't played it on PS2. We're going to get Todd to do that, I guess, for the review. So it's just
Lucky guy.
it's just like Red Steel. I mean, how many people have bought Red Steel? I mean, you can't blame people, right?
278,000.
Right. So you can't hardly blame publishers saying,
Ish.
"Oh, let's put a shooter on the Wii because
Right.
people
Well,
buy
and
that."
Famously, Call of Duty 3 outsold the PS3 version.
You know what I did see this week that was awesome? Caught it yesterday in the demo room, and I can't believe you guys weren't like hot to go see it when you knew it was here. Ninja Gaiden Sigma.
I walked in, looked pretty sweet. Yeah. Well,
I saw the video.
initially Brian into Hardbox, but he's like, "Oh, it looks the same as the Xbox version." I'm like,
Bullshit.
I'm like, really? And I think if you look at game videos, they're gonna have a comparison.
The video's up.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It looks so good.
I am amazed at how much work they put into. I mean, it's a port, right? It's
Right.
a
Yeah, I
port.
can't wait to see a real
Three
next gen.
new
Ninja Gaiden.
levels.
Support of black, right?
right.
It's a port of black,
With
right?
new-
So they
with
took
new
out the
stuff.
whirlwind because that was like overpowering once you got it
Yeah.
and it was all done, right? But it really looked great, didn't it? Man, like great field of depth effects, excellent texture
It's called
work on
depth of field.
What did I say?
Field of depth.
It's the Guatemalan route, whatever. Yeah, great depth of
Kevin
field effects.
Costner movie, right?
It's field of depth.
field of
I gotta. Did anybody ask him if it's coming to 360? Because I have a sinking feeling that it is.
It's,
Why not?
Team
I mean, it's
Ninja.
got
Why
an
not?
install base. You know.
Why
who
not?
cares? It's coming in June to PS3, and I think that as much as I love the game, I'm totally going and buying it, dude. It looks
Well,
freaking
if
awesome.
you never played Ninja Gaiden, it is a fantastic game.
If you've been living under a video game rock,
You'd
for
be
the last-
surprised how few people have played.
A
through
lot
Ninja
of
Gaiden.
people were very intimidated
Yeah.
by all the comments about how fucking ridiculously hard Ninja Gaiden
But here's the thing about how
It's
hard
easier
it
than
is.
DMC3
It's
though.
super hard,
Yeah.
but it rewards you for learning the game, and then
Yeah.
it becomes you get into it. Once you learn
That's-
it, you can play the game.
You're completely right. It's one of the only games that I've played in recent years where I felt myself getting better at regular combat. Because in most games, the average enemy can't kill you. In Ninja Gaiden, he can.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And that's why it's brilliant, because it really, really rewards you for learning the combos, learning the moves, and learning how to play the game.
I think that's why
and
God
Rachel's
of War didn't
fantastic.
stick. I think that's why God of War hasn't stuck. Now that we talked about that a little bit, like that's exactly why. Because God of War, you can just like the
Mash.
regular enemies, you just mash and like
no-
grind your
no
way
threat.
through, and there's no like there's no threat, there's no reward for like God. These white ninjas are a bitch, you know. And
So how about our message boards, John? And what have those guys been playing and talking about? They have been busy this week. Holy
Frap
cow.
Man has been very busy.
He got a lot of time on his hands.
He decided, apparently while he was moving house or something, to track words and comments that we said in last week's show.
Wow.
So last week we said the word percolate once. We made 8 sex jokes.
kind of a slow week.
Very slow week.
You said come once.
Only once.
Only once. Do you want to?
Nope, I'm just gonna wait. If it happens naturally, I mean, I like to just let it happen on its own.
It was described as come or came, which I mean,
What about ejaculate?
I don't know.
I mean,
I
we
don't
haven't
think-
even
no, I don't
started.
think we said
We haven't
ejaculate
even
at all.
started the exclusive discussion yet. It's
No.
a little too early.
Or spunk or anything like that. No words like that this week.
Money shot.
Money shot.
What about denouement?
That's actually. I believe that's pronounced.
denouement. I know.
denouement.
That was an adaptation reference, though.
denouement?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Skip?
We said Sony 23 times, Nintendo 21 times, and Microsoft 23 times.
Bias
Clearly
confirmed.
showing a bias.
Oh, here, let's fix that. Sony.
No, don't. I don't want to mess with it, dude. Let's just.
Yeah, this guy.
The thing is,
we're
like,
hoping to encourage this kind of thing on a weekly basis now.
Yeah.
Trying to encourage crazy people to be crazier.
Exactly.
All right.
So, a guy whose username I can't pronounce. What do you think that is? Byakuya?
Yeah, it's Byakuya works for me.
Byakya.
Okay. What Shane said brought up Ngai's piece on Dennis Diak's preview theory that was all over the web this
Don't
week.
get Luke started.
I'll do. I mean,
No, do actually.
we don't have time.
We don't have time.
The bottom line, Dennis Dyack, if anyone heard him on EGM Live, was bitching about the previous process and has had the time to articulate that a little better.
Well, the good news is that the whole story about his game is going to be out soon.
What?
Yeah, I mean, if you're previewing the game, it must mean it's done, and there's previews now.
Well, yeah, I mean, the theory is that the best way to preview games is you have to follow the movie model and wait until the game is finished and then do all the coverage after that. So,
Right. So
Nice dream.
nice dream. Don't know if it's very practical. Angry Gay's response to that was Dennis should spend more time working on Too Human.
QFT.
That's, I think, a sentiment that you'll find reflected if you talk to the people who are responsible for handling Mr. Dyke's game.
Oh, God. Wow.
Lick asks, are we jaded gamers? Not we, I think, just generally on the board. And ask, are we no longer excited by any news at all? I think if you're posting on a message board on a video games website, there's a pretty good chance that you are jaded.
Or very excited by news on the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. Hang on. Yeah. Smoking Joe Cool says that, you know, a lot of us that grew up with games just are waiting for the next big progression. It doesn't come. And there was a lot of bitching about Space Marines and Nazis and zombies and that kind of thing in that thread. It was a very long thread. Whale sex. There's a word for the tracker. Very well done. Nice job.
That's weapon with or armor with extra health.
What?
You played enough Diablo.
Pray, continue, John.
I think God is trying to derail every time I start
Don't
a
let him.
sentence.
Don't let him. Keep going.
Game soundtracks with emotional value says that just hearing the video game's live orchestra do the Metal Gear theme made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. And
Yeah, you
was a very
still
long
play as
thread about
Raiden.
that.
He still had to play as Raiden, though.
Raiden's
Yeah.
awesome.
But the music was very good in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Harry Gregson Wilt.
And we've
Harry
talked
Gregson Williams? I
Yes,
believe?
who also did the music for The Rock.
Downgrade.
Yeah. And we've talked about how you get chub whenever you hear the Halo soundtrack.
Jesus.
Jay Ray, who should act and direct the Gears of War movie? He suggests Russell Crowe as Marcus, Daniel Craig as Baird. I'm not sure
Is there room for Vin Diesel in this film?
I think there's probably a good chance. Xbox fanboy
He could be
suggests...
Cole.
Yeah. Xbox fanboy suggested a Predator reunion with Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura, and Carl Weathers.
Oh my.
I'd go see that.
Yeah.
What
Brought to you
about
by Geritol.
What about the guy who plays Bennett in Commando could be Baird. He shaved the mustache off and rocked the flat top and dyed blonde. What about Dolph Lundgren? I mean, another great Baird
still
choice.
around?
He
think
is.
so,
Do you
yeah.
think it'd be tough to convey the narrative gravitas of Gears of War in a feature film?
I'm not sure.
Dude, we're getting out of prison. Let's go kill some shit. Here's a gun.
It shouldn't die.
We should be in it. Yeah.
Talk to Cliffy.
Who do you want to be, Luke?
I don't know, but Hanging Corpse 3?
Yeah. And I don't know. People were talking about directors, and Ridley Scott and Peter Jackson came up a lot.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that'll happen.
Yeah.
On your road trip to Fantasyland. You know who'll be directing it? Yui Bull or someone of that ilk. Give me a fucking break. Maybe you can get guided with, like, Not Too Teen Movie Volume 8. Like, I'm sure he's up to do fucking Gears of War. Guess who's making that IP? No one. Jesus. Sorry, that sort of just came randomly.
That was. Are you right?
Good luck, New Line Cinema.
Best of luck to everyone involved. Beige had one of his classically very long initial posts mapping the Hannah Montana factor inconvenient truth.
Wow.
Wants to open up a discussion and get input from everyone so we can nail down a set of questions. The questions we just have to ask in order to build a representative model of the games industry as it really is. Hannah Montana, warts and all. This is where the Mick comment that I talked about earlier on, just sort of getting an idea of where what people are really buying.
This guy writes for me.
He's quite verbose.
Jesus.
But there's a very long thread there. A lot of, and as with a lot of the base threads, it started off with a lot of "what the fuck, dude" kind of comments,
Sounds heavy.
and turned into some discussion. But Mick, who was talking about being the father of a daughter, says that I think a lot of people were dismissing this Hannah Montana fact as being people that buy stuff in Walmart and have mullets, and there was a lot of dismissal of that. And then it slowly turned into people talking about, why these games really are selling well. And
Those
a lot of
people
it's with kids.
Yeah, those people are the same people who buy like the #1 album in America. That kind
Exactly.
exactly.
I just want to finish up with Stricken 618.
You're looking at me with this very...
No. I was looking at you because you mentioned it earlier because we all had a laugh about this one. Stricken 618 has a thread right now called "God Damn It, One Up Yours."
You having a laugh, are you?
So, although his profile says he's 21, he assures us that he's actually 15 and attends a small Catholic school. Where after school one day, and in some after-school session, he was listening to One Up Yours on his iPod. And his teacher came along, asked what he was listening to.
His favorite teacher, I noticed.
His favorite teacher came along and asked him what he was listening to and looked at the screen on his iPod and it said One Up Yours. And then confiscated the iPod because it One Up Yours. And then after the teacher looked at the contents of the iPod, he found a hidden porn stash.
Not hidden well enough, Mr. Stricken.
Yeah. Not exactly hidden.
The guy was obviously very thorough in his research.
Or he knew where he was a Catholic school person. He knew where to look.
Or it was just what was it? Was it under the guilt folder?
Yeah.
What folder was it in?
And also songs mocking Jesus.
Oh my God!
Which songs are those? I'm interested.
And he was suspended for what was apparently quite a while, and now everyone looks at him like he's some kind of God-hating porn pervert freak, much like the rest of us.
I was going to say, I'd like to welcome Stricken to the team. Welcome.
By the way, we make no guarantees, written or expressed, that One Up Yours is appropriate for Catholic school
or people under the age of 18, even, I would say.
People in general. we just put it out there. You want to listen to it, you're on your own.
So we're very sorry, Stricken, and we hope you got your iPod back.
And if you did,
along
we'll
with
send
your
you
porn.
one. Just kidding.
But, I mean, seriously, porn on your iPod?
Like, man.
Take it where you can get it.
It's better than HD.
Apparently he has to take it with him.
I mean, as Luke was pointing out today, we don't want porn in HD.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier.
Apparently some of the girls in the porn industry don't want porn in HD either.
Can you blame them?
Every blemish.
Yeah, I mean, razor burn? No thanks.
So maybe looking at
hairs.
maybe looking at it on a tiny screen is better. But anyway, if you can't wait till you get home, then maybe, Stricken, maybe.
You're going to rub one out on the bus? Oh, man. Wow.
I think that you'll be ready to rub one out in just a minute because we're going to get into that exclusives discussion, and I know you have some ammo coming.
Who needs another drink?
You might, sir, because by the way, a couple of those big exclusives for a certain console, maybe not going to happen exactly exclusively. Stick around. We'll be right back to get into that. Don't go anyplace.
You're listening to One Up Yours, part of the One Up Radio Network.
Want more Extreme Tech? Well, now you can join the crew of expert analysts for a weekly podcast. They'll give you the lowdown on the latest technology news, product reviews, and let you know what's coming up. Just go to extremetech.com to subscribe.
Well, though I did hear that Devil May Cry 4 is totally confirmed PS3 exclusive, never going anywhere else, ever.
Really? No, really, seriously. That's you, Shane, right?
Totally confirmed.
Totally,
not coming to any platform other than PS3, Devil May Cry 4. In before the 35-page thread.
At the time of recording, that was true, and that was from sources I can't reveal, but things change.
Because
that's the most demure I've ever seen Shane be.
It's interesting though, because
he's like Condoleezza Rice here.
What?
Because I went to
I'm not a hot black woman.
Hell yeah!
Oh my God!
I meant like confirming the weapons of mass destruction.
Mistakes were made.
I went to similar sources, and this has been like a plan. This has been a plan for a long time, way back. If you even look back to when they were like, "Oh, it's absolutely only going to the PlayStation 3." When producers from Capcom said that, like Capcom was like, "Oh, really?"
We see they had to do something so that the UN would authorize the use of force. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, so they'd be able to sell PS3s.
So where we're going with this, Luke?
I think where we're going with this is probably it's sort of ground that we've tread on a lot, and we're going to continue to
Which
return
is the
to.
death of the exclusive.
I don't know that it's the death necessarily, but it's, I mean, the evolution of, I mean, the importance of first party is continuing to evolve and change and shift, and, you know, it's coming at the right time, because if first party had been this important last gen, there wouldn't be a 360, because Microsoft's first party last cycle was like Halo, Kung Fu Chaos, Voodoo Vince, Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
Well,
Like,
actually,
forget
come
Blinks.
what?
Did Voodoo Vince actually
It
come
did.
out?
Actually, Microsoft last gen was like a wide net. Like, we're going to try to be Sony. We're going to try to have a game in every single genre.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was mostly failures. But the successes they had, like, you know, Halo, Crimson Skies. Fable. You know, they did have some successes, and that's what they're building on this cycle. But, you know,
Before we pull too far away,
Right.
let me jump in for a second in that you said first party, and I think that's the big deal here is maybe not the death of the exclusive, but the death of third party exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, more and more, because of the way the market has gone, it doesn't make any financial sense for any third-party developer to release a game in only one console, because the install bases just aren't there. And if no one's going to, you know, if no one's going to throw money at you to make it exclusive, why make it exclusive? It's a poor, you know, it's a poor decision to go only on one console when you can go on both and sell twice as many copies.
And it's interesting that you brought up Microsoft last generation, because certainly this plays right into the whole Oddworld thing, right? I mean, that's what was a potentially huge franchise that they had many, many plans for, that through a couple of stumble steps just as...
Well, I mean, like some internal changes in Microsoft kind of changed their opinion.
Oddworld is a
Oddworld.
weird example, because
Yeah.
not everyone responded to the IP. I mean, it was a bit... I think it was too weird
really
that-
strong when it came out of PlayStation World, though.
It was, but
The,
it
the
waned.
original Abe stuff. I mean, it had the
Right.
whole cute communication thing. I mean, this is sort of going off on a tangent, but I think the Oddworld universe started to wallow in its own weirdness, and I think what undid it was Munch.
Yeah.
Well, not
Munch-
Strange. Stranger was actually a step back towards something a bit more normal,
Right.
but
Munch, it wasn't as good.
Munch
It really wasn't as good.
and it was a weird little dude in a wheelchair, and I think and it was like people were like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be a superhero. Why is this my situation?
But I think we're getting off track. Like, you know, what this is really about is about the fact that Sony is not prepared to like give anybody co-marketing, to give anybody money, and because of that, all these third-party developers, a lot of them Japanese, are putting their games on 360.
I think that I think that the assumption that it's like the easy cognitive assumption to be like, well, it's because Microsoft pays for the marketing, and that's actually not so much the case as much as it is like these developers are saying like, we want to make money. We should bring this to the other platforms. We have to bring this out
Right.
in multiple.
And Sony isn't stopping them.
Yeah, Sony's not saying no, and
No.
the way you stop that is buy that investment, and then, you know, the way Microsoft can incentivize that isn't, you know, ponying up to Capcom and saying, you know, here's $20 million for the development cost of the game. It's like, here's, you know, $20 million for the marketing plan. It will
Right.
help you market the game.
And the timed exclusives we're seeing on 360, a lot of that is co-marketing. You know, it isn't like we're paying outright for this game, you know, but it's just like we will help you co-market it for the first 6 months when it's
So
only
since
on
you
our
brought up
console.
Capcom, what do you think is going to happen to those franchises that they began jumping into the next gen early, right? I mean, they were not afraid to do Dead Rising,
I mean, yeah, you'll
Lost
see,
Planet.
I think you'll see proper sequels to both games, and I think you'll see proper sequels to both games on both platforms. I think by the time you're ready to see a new Lost Planet, by the time you're ready to see a new Dead Rising, let's assume not an annual franchise, let's assume biannual. Biannual franchises, the market will have like matured a little bit. You'll be able to make money on both platforms, and Capcom's going to stay savvy, and they're going to put it on both, just like RE5.
Like looking long term, we already saw the investment that Sony made with Namco and Celius, and you know what comes of that we don't know yet, but something will. But it's definitely a long term investment. And until the PS3 has a large install base in Japan, which who knows, that could be until Final Fantasy 13 comes out, or in Europe, and that, you know, we'll know soon how well it's doing in Europe. But until that happens, there's no reason for a company like Capcom to make a game only for PS3, because you're just not going to sell enough units.
Well, this is what I mean when you see all the commentary on it. I mean, someone made a comment, science versus religion or something on our boards, and it was sort of, I think it was something to do with this. It was like,
It's what they expected out of this week's show. Like,
yeah, there's like a
it's shame.
religious sort of. I mean, like, have you seen the petition, like addressing Capcom?
That petition like makes PlayStation owners seem stupid. It makes
Exactly. There's like, I mean, when I looked at it earlier on, there was like nearly 800 people had signed this petition, bitching at saying that they were going to boycott Capcom because now they're I don't know what, tainting the bloodline or whatever the fuck the argument is.
Advocacy is asinine. It's retarded. Like no one should sign that petition.
But this is where this sort of like bizarre religious zealot attitude that people have at this point is just absurd, because if these guys don't spread the load, like you said, if they don't spread the load, it's all about money,
right?
And but the flip side of this is that if these things don't accelerate out of the gate and we don't start seeing a lot more hardware and a lot more of this kind of support, we're going to get to the point where what is the point of there being 3 consoles
Well,
if ultimately
are
the
we
only,
already there?
I mean, ultimately the only real difference you're seeing is first party, and I don't think Sony or Microsoft is in a position to own the platform quite the way that Nintendo does.
No, but Sony's a lot closer to being Nintendo than Microsoft is, and they really do have a stable of franchises that is literally 3 or 4 times what Microsoft has. They really do, and like no one can argue that. Like I could name here the franchises that Sony has,
But the
that
biggest-
Microsoft doesn't.
I mean,
Wait, let's actually explore that for a
do you
minute.
want me to start naming franchises, Garnet? Do I really
Look,
have
I want
to?
you to name ones that sell games and
All right,
at
here
a
we
rate
go.
higher than 1% install globally.
All right, I didn't think I'd have to do this, but I'm having to do it. Okay, Gran Turismo, SOCOM, Jack, Ratchet, Sly, God of War, Twisted Metal, Wipeout.
Okay, wait. I think you're kind of heading down some fringe areas there.
I don't think I am.
As
I
much
think
as I love
Garnet, I think every game I just mentioned sells over 500,000 units. I really do.
over 500,000
Yeah,
units.
I do.
So that's
A 0.5% install
No, but
percentage on
like
I mean, a global
name me some
market.
name me some
Right, I
Xbox
mean-
franchise that sold over 500,000 units. I mean, I'm not trying to be
Ninja
systematic.
Gaiden, Fable, Halo, Halo
Ninja
2.
Gaiden is a third party. I'm talking first party. I'm not trying to like say.
Look, as enthusiasts-
Sony's way better than Microsoft. No, I mean like Halo is the most important IP that
Yeah,
anybody
but the
has.
argument, to be honest, was that they're closer
Right.
to following the Nintendo.
Sony has more IPs than Microsoft. They really do, and that's not.
they
up
have
for
more IPs.
They have more
They have
value,
more IPs.
more
I agree
valuable
with you on that.
IPs, and like that's not up for debate. It really isn't.
Well, you said more, but then you counter with more valuable. I think
Right.
that's
Well,
like.
more valuable.
And
like,
you said did you say Ratchet on your list?
I did.
Because that does Sony owns the IP, but the studio's still second party.
right, but that franchise is exclusive to PlayStation, and will continue to be. It will.
I think that some of the franchises that you named, as enthusiasts, I know that I love a lot. We probably love lots of them, like Sly Cooper, but Sly Cooper is not a.
Yes, it is.
It's not a high profile.
Yes, it is.
No,
it sells really well, dude. Actually, you're wrong.
of that
But
triumvirate.
this is not what I want to get to. I don't want to get to
Okay.
arguing Sony versus Microsoft because that's not what this is about. Ultimately, I mean, it is, but
sucks when you're on the bottom side and you don't want to argue.
I'm not on the bottom
The
side.
thing that I keep coming back to is something that Jaffe said. Was it a couple of months ago?
Man, also God of War.
You mentioned that one.
You mentioned
Oh,
that one, yeah.
all right.
But when Jaffe's comments about, we're heading towards a single platform world, and I think what's going on with exclusives right now is definitely pointing towards that path when it's only the first parties that are dictating it. I mean, what the message this sends to the big third parties, unless you can find a way to port stuff cheap,
Right.
every game is going to be unnecessarily expensive.
Well, and we've seen that it is possible to port Xbox 360 games to PS3 with mixed results. But the question is, well, what happens when you start porting PS3 games to Xbox 360? And if ultimately we did see Metal Gear Solid 4 come to Xbox 360, and I don't think we'll be seeing that this year, and I don't even think they would announce that before the end of this year if they were to do it. But a game that was developed from the ground up with the cell architecture is not an easy port. It really isn't. And I don't think it would be the same. I mean, a game that really uses Blu-ray storage, that's not an easy port.
Yeah, but I mean, the Blu-ray storage thing is sort of a non-issue to me when a bunch of the stuff that I played on PS1 was multi-disc shit anyway. I mean, I'm not terribly compelled to say it has more storage.
Right.
I don't have a huge problem
but I
with,
mean,
with swapping discs.
from what you
I didn't then, and I wouldn't
From what
now.
you know of technology, what I know of game programming, do you think Metal Gear Solid 4 is an easy port to Xbox 360?
No, not unless they downgrade it. I mean,
Right.
which they have
And,
every time we've seen it, it's looked worse.
And that Devil May Cry soundbite is coming back to bite me. But I will say now, I really do believe that Final Fantasy 13 and Verse 13 will continue to be exclusive to PS3. Will a game come out in the FF13 world for 360? Possibly, but it might be a different game.
Yeah, which FF13?
I mean, they can make as many as they want to make fucking 30 FF13 games probably.
What's interesting about the single platform world that you were talking about is neither of these two big competitors that are pushing graphics forward, pushing the technology forward, are making any money at all off their hardware. I mean, are we in agreement about that?
Well,
the ones
yeah, but it's early days.
no, the premium SKU makes money because of the hard
Okay.
drive right now.
I bet the Elite SKU makes money.
But so at least let's say it's not their profit center, right?
No, it's not.
No.
So to them, there's actually a scenario you could see where it would be advantageous to unite and become. Well, Microsoft already was a software company. I mean, let's face it, they're not really a
There's no
hard.
uniting coming on those platforms. It's not going to happen.
No,
it'll be fight to the death. It won't be united.
It'll be someone trying to buy Madden. So it's going to be.
So what we're kind of turning into, is remember the 16-bit war, Sega, Genesis versus Super Nintendo, where one came out a year earlier. They're both very competitive. A lot of the same third-party games came out on both, but ultimately the superior hardware, first-party prowess and third-party relationships of Nintendo pushed Super Nintendo over the Sega Genesis. And I think that same thing could happen here. Not necessarily.
But the thing is, like, could you just humor me and relist what you listed? The superior hardware, the first-party, and the third-party relationships.
Yes.
I give you 2 out of 3.
Which one don't you give me?
I'm not giving you best third-party relationships with either Nintendo or Sony.
Well, I'm saying I will say that
reality.
Microsoft has the best third-party relationships with Western developers and publishers, but Sony still has a better relationship with the Japanese developer publishers than Microsoft has. And the fact that 360 is still on life support in Japan.
Sakaguchi disagrees with you.
But
is he relevant?
So Kojima Productions and Square Enix, like, help me find those other key third parties in Japan.
Sakaguchi not relevant to the East.
Remains to be seen.
Why is that?
Blue Dragon, sold units, but it sold software, but it didn't sell hardware.
But you're judging his relevancy off of a single title that he's done in this generation.
We'll see how Lost Odyssey does in Japan. But I mean, whether or not 360 can be saved in Japan remains to be seen. And that's not a fanboyish thing to say. That's completely.
Oh, I mean, I'll jump with you on that. Yeah, I don't even think it remains to be seen. I don't think it could be saved.
When we go to Tokyo next week, you'll see the 360 games are in the back with Dreamcast. They really are.
I just said it. I don't think 360 can be saved in the East.
But it will continue to be very viable here, much like Sega Genesis. Like, there was no clear-cut winner until the very end of the 16-bit war, and we have the whole thing of Wii, which is outselling both of those systems month over month.
So then that goes back to an argument we had 8 months ago about what happens if Sony puts all its eggs in trying to fight the Western world, where 360 already has a lead, and then Wii goes back.
And they alienate that Eastern support that Shane was championing is so vital.
I want to go back to what you said about the Wii, because I've been going back through.
The Wii is such a disruptor.
Right.
It is.
But I've been going back through a bunch of old blogs and columns and stuff I wrote in 2001, and everything that I was writing about the GameCube back then is basically what we're all writing about the Wii right now, is that everyone wants one, and there's all this awesome stuff, and it's really hard to get one. And then the magic thing happened. Third-party support dropped out completely. We were all excited about Rogues, whichever one was the launch one. Rogue Squadron, the first one. And there was a bunch of stuff early on where it looked like third-party support was there and Zelda was coming. Then, bang, it just died.
But Wii is selling way faster than GameCube did. It really is. It's already at this point reached 20% of the installed user base that GameCube had.
In America, it's averaging 464,000 units a month. Microsoft's averaging 340,000 units a month. And
Guess
Sony's
what Luke's been doing this week.
And in Japan, Wii already has 2 million sellers, which is crazy when games are struggling to sell 200,000 copies on PS3 and 10,000 copies on Xbox 360 there.
But I think there's bullishness from the first parties about the importance of third-party exclusivity that has bitten them in the ass before.
Sony is putting all of their resources behind first-party development, and is that a wise decision? Maybe not. If you're not caring about third-party, then all your third-party games go multi-platform.
And then maybe your platform, and we haven't even started to talk about this yet. Maybe your platform's not the lead SKU.
Well, and
if your platform's not the lead SKU in a third-party situation, you're getting pretty much the GIMP version. Yeah. You're getting a version that's not optimized in the same way.
And if people are developing multi-platform games for 360 and porting them to PS3, it's homogenizing the experience and not taking advantage of the PS3's features such as Blu-ray or 6-axis. It gets tacked on, and you're not getting the same game you would have got if they built it from the ground up for PS3.
But maybe third-party developers look at that and go, well, even if we lead on 360 and tagging stuff on seems to work because third parties are selling games on the Wii. Tagging stuff on seems to be working.
Yeah, obviously. And so I think at this point, if Metal Gear Solid 4, which is coming out this year, and Final Fantasy 13, which is coming out next year, if those games remain exclusive to PS3 and are really, really fucking good, like they look like they are, then Japanese developers are like, okay, we'll start making PS3 exclusive games now. But when are we going to see those games?
But by then,
is it too late?
But by then, the thing is, by then, the market share difference, where we've been talking about it a lot. The market share difference right now in America's 1.01 million or 1.05 million for the PS3. Wii 1.8 million and 360 5.1 million, according to NPD. You have all those numbers, and right now it's 5-1. And month to month, PS3 is still outselling Xbox 360 over the same 4-month lifespan, at the first 4 years of the cycle. But what are you going to see as far as a year from now? Is Sony going to have a 1.1 million unit month like Microsoft did in December?
Final Fantasy 13 in Japan could conceivably push as many as 2 to 3 million PS3 hardware, and that's not like that's a low estimate. And if that happens,
that's crazy.
If in Japan we suddenly have 3 or 4 million PS3s and less than 1 million 360s, then it changes, but only then.
Okay, if it changes then, I think a point that you kind of went by very quickly is important here. What's the development time cycle on making games? If they just start into it then, and keep in mind now we're one of the big hot news stories right now is the first revision of the 360. So if we're already to a point in the 360's life cycle where they're willing to say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and bring a new version of this console out. I'm going to bring back my argument.
Right.
I'm going to bring back my argument. When is it going to be too late down the horizon? And Microsoft says, you know what, we're going to start talking about the next
I mean, I think
console.
if Sony's in this for the long haul, Microsoft should also be in it for the long haul and keep this console war going instead of pushing it forward.
I don't think you're going to see a race to the next console like you saw in the last time. I honestly don't.
But it doesn't even have to be a race in this case, Luke. I mean, what I'm saying is, even if they didn't accelerate the cycle, if it's not until the end of this year, beginning of next year,
it won't be, because it's all about. I mean, it's all right now is about getting install base, and if and the challenge on exclusivity is going to come later, where it's like whoever hits 10 million, whoever hits gets something to 15, 20 million, then it becomes a lot more attractive to hey, we're going to go exclusive with this franchise.
My guess, by the way, was 18 to 24 months about what we think it takes to do a good.
Yeah.
Easily.
But to finish the thought, at that point we've talked. Who was it? Was on the show that was talking about. Different points in a console's life cycle.
It was talking about a GDC session.
So it was a GDC session. It was Don Dagler, right? Towards the end. So at the point where it makes business sense to be going Xbox or PS3 exclusive, in terms of the cycle, you're at a point where you have conflicting motivations. So we either need the console to last a lot longer, or you're going to have to take franchises that were previously across everyone and say, okay, this is now a PS3 franchise. Or you're at the point where you have to launch new franchises at a point in a console's life where it's not appropriate.
But then the thing about what you just said there, where if you have a release that's been multi-platform all along and it shifts to single platform exclusive, and you have that late in the cycle, isn't part of having a single platform exclusive to move hardware? But if it's late in the cycle, you're gonna be converting the people you've already converted. The hardware's already installed. You're not going to be bringing that base in.
If this console cycle is really 8 to 10 years, then maybe what we think of the points in the cycle need to shift as well.
But to Shane's point,
this console cycle is not 8 to 10 years.
Is it?
That absolutely flies.
How do you know? Are you from the future? Do you know?
No, I'm not from the future, but that flies in the face of the way technology is adopted.
I like how seriously you said you're like, I'm not from the future.
He really is.
I got to remember to say
that flies in the face of it. I mean, technology doesn't advance on a curve that goes like this. Right. It advances on a curve that goes, and I wish this was television. It goes on a curve that keeps on progressively getting more accelerated, not slowing down.
I got to remember to say this before this is over. So this week we saw Ace Combat and Devil May Cry go multi-platform, or in fact, Ace Combat. We don't even know if it's coming to PS3. It probably is, but we don't know that. What we have seen is a lot of PS3 exclusives going multi-platform, and in the coming weeks and months, you will see some games that you thought of as Xbox 360 exclusives, important Xbox 360 exclusives, going multi-platform to PS3. So there will be some retribution for the PS3 faithfuls here.
I think if you're talking about the same thing that I think you are,
I'm talking about multiple things.
Which the things you're talking about are franchises that are already you've already seen go multi-platform. What's significant?
Right, but you know them right now as debut on Xbox 360.
Right, and Peter Morris talked about my concept of exclusivity as being the first to have it. I think that what you're saying though sort of diminishes the importance, and I don't even necessarily know how important Devil May Cry appearing on another platform is. That does not, to me, that strikes me as like a poor man's Ninja Gaiden. It's not a particularly what
about a poor man's Too Human?
No,
the significance there is the image.
Well, no, the significance is partly image, but this is a franchise that has been on Sony platform and PC. If you see a franchise that's an existing multi-platform franchise go, that's announced now as an exclusive, and then go to multi-platform, then it's like,
let's be honest.
That all
you see very secondary. This is a PlayStation identity game. I mean, this is a game that I stood in E3 years ago when it first debuted on PS2 with Kynan, my buddy who works down at Retro Studios. He drugged me over to the booth to play this thing, and we literally stood around and played it over and over and over because it was so awesome.
DMC was one of the first good games for PS2. So
it was fantastic.
People associated with PlayStation, but at the same time, what do people associate something like KOTOR with? Oh, Xbox.
The next KOTOR won't be on PS3.
You don't think?
No.
Want to bet?
So there you go. There's Shane. Now you have the soundbite that we will play in front of his.
I would actually bet against you because, like, your accuracy, you bet like 25%.
I make some bad bets. It's true.
You do make some.
I did once bet Shu who was going to win a football game, and it was already over. He didn't tell me that. I took the bet anyway.
That would be the equivalent of betting with me on this.
Yeah.
I think.
We'll see.
You can bring.
So you don't think KOTOR will be on PS3?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm saying it won't be.
I think it will be.
Thank you, John.
I don't think it will.
We'll see.
I think it will be.
Thank you, Garnet.
This is going to be so awesome when I'm the only one who's right.
I also think that Splinter Cell 5 might be on PS3.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's like exactly what I'm talking about, though. Like Splinter Cell. Wow, that's been on every platform
with
ever.
The numbers because they're not sequential.
This is like I think this is the next one that's supposed to be good.
One after the one after Double Agent, or is that?
Yeah.
Or more importantly, which of the groups is making this?
This should be the good one, I think, because Chaos Theory is good.
I can't remember.
Double Agent. That's
The odd number ones are good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The even number ones we can skip. That's why they didn't call it Splinter Cell 4. Because they know we're onto them.
But coming back to Wii, I do think the Wii is kind of going to fuck this all up because our good 16-bit again. No, because there was no Wii back with Super Nintendo and Genesis. And if
it would have been like a new version of the NES coming out.
Because Wii is going to get its own exclusives, and it's also going to get PS2 and PSP ports.
Well, the question is this: I mean, if first-party exclusives become the big driving factor, who better to drive that than Nintendo? I mean, are we going to have an argument?
I don't know if you talked about it yet, but like the tracking versus the GameCube, like Wii tracking against the GameCube, and that similar sort of we're seeing a lot of the same I still think that while you can talk about expanding the market, and you can talk about Nintendo, expanding the market to old women and old people and little kids, and you see the videos on Dig, I still think that they're going to garnish the same 15 to 18 million people, and you're going to see it be hot for a while, and then eventually, once everyone who wants one now gets one, that average is going to slip off,
Luke,
and that
they are getting the casuals, and obviously 360 and PS3 are not getting the casuals; they're getting the hardcores.
I don't.
But the Wii needs its casual game.
What about let's Gran Turismo. What kind of game is that?
Hardcore.
Halo.
Hardcore.
Grand Theft Auto.
Both.
I'll give you both on that. But those are the three biggest selling IPs last gen. I'm sticking by it. Wii is fad. It's a fad. Sales is not going to matter. There's 11 games sold over 1 million on the GameCube.
I'm not ready to sell it down the river yet. I'm not ready to sell it down the river yet because all Wii needs is its Nintendogs. If Wii gets its equivalent of Nintendogs that turns it into the next thing, then that would be what launches it, right? That would be what takes it a step forward.
Wii is already a huge success and with no signs of stopping.
But I think what correct me if I'm wrong. Look, what you're saying is that it's at that point where you can start to think, maybe it's going to run out of gas.
Yeah, it's going to run out. It's not. I'm not saying it might run out of gas. It's selling 464,000 units a month. The tail is coming. It's the February that it had was a remarkable February when you consider that PlayStation 3 sold 127,000 units and the 360's first year it sold 160,000 units. It's doing incredibly and being supply constrained. That's going to tail off when people realize it's a Zelda playing machine and I'm just getting the same Nintendo games, period, and mini games, and that's going to get old to people. And who's going to get old to? The casual people who are buying it now and are going to look at it and go, "Why the hell did I buy this?"
So I'm going to bring it back. John, you've been really good at keeping track of how this maps to other console profiles, right? Doesn't that sound a lot like what we were saying about DS?
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm saying
DS, which is some analysts saying tracking to be the best-selling console of all time.
Right. That's what I'm saying is all Wii. That's why I'm not selling Wii down the river yet. Is because
and we don't really have any visibility on outside of the first-party stuff on what are going to be the platform-defining games. I mean, with the PS2, the platforming-defining games. I mean, you listed a bunch earlier on, but they weren't necessarily platform definers. GTA did define PlayStation 2 as a platform, and it was a third-party exclusive. So, as well as all the usual Nintendo stuff, there needs to be some visibility of someone working on a Wii game, apart from Nintendo, that's going to make us all want a Wii. And where is that?
Well, and where is it going to be when Nintendo is so adamant about making sure their first party is successful? Developing for the Nintendo platforms as a third party is little more than a hostile environment.
But don't you think it sounds like SCE is going down the Nintendo route and let's just care about first-party games, making them better than everybody else's games?
And I've said, if you want to try and go, I've said this before, if you're Sony and you're thinking, I'm going to go down the Nintendo route and my console is $600, guess what?
And then the irony of that is if you're third party and you're working on 360, you know that at some point in time, here comes Halo 3. And you're going to get measured
maybe
against
sooner
it.
rather than later.
Yeah, we've gone over this many times.
But what I'm saying is that the irony of it is, of all the games you want to have to match up to, who the hell, especially in the Western marketplace, wants to match up against Halo 3?
Well, I mean, maybe you ship it early so you have a full holiday season.
BioShock.
Yeah,
but back to the Wii.
BioShock's going to be Halo 3 to retail.
Back to Wii, though.
Guaranteed.
I'm still looking for third-party games that are worth buying. Like, where are they?
Yep.
When are we going to see them? Like, it's still like the Nintendo console, much like the DS.
Well, it's still like the Zelda playing console, and like I think everyone's waiting to see. Like, we saw the EA Boogie screens, and I was looking at EA Boogie, and I was like, it still looked to me like a mini game. It's like
on that subject of EA titles, I would have to say like the first big point, like the first chink in the armor to me was the SSX game, because I had high expectations for that
franchise. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
the SSX is perfect for the PlayStation controller. It was built for the PlayStation controller.
For the Wii.
I got to think that, I mean, we were talking about it earlier on, that when you start to see things like fucking Hannah Montana on Wii, that is going down the right path for that console. And I'm sure there are some hardcore Nintendo fans that don't want to hear that, but a game like, I mean, it's an exclusive in handheld on the DS. I think we're going to see a lot of these like licensed kids franchises pointed specifically at Wii, and I think we're going to see a lot of licensed franchises period on Wii. Because if they're going after casual and they're going after trying to mainstream gaming, it's only a matter of time before someone starts to push, okay, we're going to do the Heroes game, we're going to do there'll be a CSI game on Wii.
I agree with you until they hit that seminal moment where they get out the game that demonstrates that the nunchuck and the Wiimote are more than just a gimmick. Well, just like they did with the DS.
Like, to John's point, Harry Potter on Wii is going to kick the ass out of Harry Potter on PS3 and 360 sales-wise. I mean, seriously.
Exactly.
And that's smart marketing. That's where it should go.
That's good, because those games can go there, because those games can flood that system, because I have no interest as a gamer in those games, and it can be a dumping ground for the shit that I don't want to play, and I can look at my PlayStation 3 and my 360 and go, yes, these are the games that I will enjoy.
I guess ultimately, like,
I like that.
The big disconnect between Wii and 360 versus PS3 is going to get, the gulf is going to get wider and wider, and the game is going to look uglier and uglier on Wii and better and better on PS3 and 360, and that's just what's going to happen.
This conversation all started because of the Devil May Cry announcement or reveal that it's actually going to be on multiple platforms. So let's go around, let's wrap this thing up by going around and saying, what's a good time frame? 12 months from now.
Yep.
What do you think the impact is going to be on third party, first party, and the console war?
Of the Devil May Cry announcement?
Of
I think we're reading a lot into the significance
of the de-emphasis of the exclusive. Or where do you think exclusivity will be for titles or for these
a year from now?
Yes.
I think it's going to continue down the path that it's going. It's going to be all about, for the next year or two, it's going to be all about first party. I think there'll be more and more third. I mean, we talk about this a lot on this show, but people have to. The religious zealots need to face up to the fact that publishers need to make money.
Why did you get to go first? That's like exactly what I wanted to say. Except, like, I do think that a year from now is still premature. You're going to have the PlayStation 3 a year from now sitting in a position like the 360 is sitting in, and I don't think, for the most part, you can't look at the 360's portfolio this year and go, wow, that's not a better portfolio than what they were ushering in last year. It's the same thing from, this fall with Sony. It's going to start, and I would expect it to continue because they do have a stable, like that Shane mentioned, a stable of first parties. I expect next year to hopefully be Sony showing a great title every month, shipping a great title every month, and it's still going to be first party. It won't be until 2 years from this discussion where you finally start to see people migrating toward, you're going to finally start to see like the meaningful third party exclusive return, like the next Grand Theft Auto game, not 4 as it's being called, but whatever, 4 the new city or whatever it's going to be called. That will be timed. There will be some part of that that's a timed exclusive. That will not be day and date on all.
You mean
consoles.
the sort of Vice City of that generation?
That's what I'm saying.
I think by that point it could be console specific if someone's willing to throw money.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be. You're going to see that go multi-plat. You're going to see that go single. You're going to see you will see actual Splinter Cell type franchise if people are still playing that game go exclusive. You'll see Ubisoft be viable. Assassin's Creed 2. If there's something like that, but that's the time frame that you have to be thinking of when you talk about this. It's not Assassin's Creed now because the install bases are too low. You have to be thinking of games that aren't even on your radar yet. That's what you'll have to start thinking. It's stuff like Gears of War 3. That could be a PS3 game. It absolutely could be. Epic retains the IP. The first 2 published. Microsoft owns the rights to the first 2 publishing. And you know what? You don't think that Mark Rain and those guys are pissed about the way things are being handled at Epic? The Epic and Microsoft relationship?
Where the hell is the DLC?
I'm not going to say anything. Think critically about it.
By the way, I'm not blowing a cover because I already talked about I played it. It's awesome. Let me talk about it. Let's show it to people. Let's get it to people.
But stuff like this is what we have to be thinking about. Like, a lot of things are going to change when these user bases hit, their critical mass, where it gets to that 15, 20 million users. Like, yeah, then you can go exclusive.
Yeah, I think a year from now, nothing will have changed. Final Fantasy still won't be out. Nothing will have changed. But I do think that, further on, things will change. But, I have to wonder what's really going to be exclusive still in a year. Like, seriously, why? Like, there's no reason until the install base makes a big difference.
A year from now, if you haven't bought your PS3 to play MGS4, you'll play
Mama
play
will still be
360.
exclusive.
Cooking Mama will still be exclusive. So will
There's a third-party exclusive on Wii.
whatever the next Disney Channel show is will also be exclusive on Wii.
Exactly.
But
That's,
I also
that's
say
a Raven Wii.
I would say the best-selling games on all 3 platforms this year will be first-party games.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
easily.
Guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably the first top 3 on each console will be first-party games.
Yep.
I think there's a couple of wild cards in here. Number one being that Microsoft has been making a couple stumbles lately, but they are primarily a software company. I think that actually they saw some of the handwriting on the wall. They did do a sweep of their game studio.
They've done it before.
We'll talk about the sweeps coming up.
But the timing is significant to me in that someone in there visionary enough is thinking maybe out there and seeing these trends. And the second one, really, there's a significant amount of what happens here hinging on the adoption rate of the PS3 and how much willing people are to go out there and buy it, and what happens with the pricing. There's already rumors starting to fly.
Yeah. Are we going to talk about that next segment, or should I talk about it now? What Sony needs to do with PS3?
We can talk about it.
In this September, they need to make one SKU, 60 gig. It needs to be $4.99, and it needs to be packed in with Spider-Man 3 on Blu-ray.
And
When Spider-Man 3 come out?
September.
On DVD.
It comes out on Blu-ray in September.
Well, that's inside the 6-month window that I would have thought.
So that's where I'm going to wrap that up. And wow, we're already ready to do some news, and we have plenty of news coming up. So that was really good work, guys. Good work, and stick around because coming
We
up.
solved nothing. Excellent.
It's still a problem. God,
We didn't solve it.
We're not going to solve it. Here's to in 2 months coming back and having this conversation again, and probably doing through the same
is that
thing,
when
right?
you think the MGS4 announcement will be in 2 months?
No.
I don't know, but you have plenty of interesting announcements to go over in the news section. So stick around, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the news.
Tell people why you listen to GFW Radio.
Well, I don't have very many friends, but I already consider the GFW radio crew some of my better friends. They don't talk about a lot of the things that are important to me, hentai and anime like Inuyasha, the music of Kokotaki-san, but they do know their computer games. Lol. Is that good?
Why don't you tell the folks where they can get the podcast?
I can get mine from gfwradio.oneup.com or podcast.oneup.com, or you can also get it from iTunes Music Store.
What is this trash? We can't use this, imbecile.
So, Luke, I think we kind of already covered all of that exclusivity talk. I mean, we already talked about Ace Combat going to the 360. We talked about Devil May Cry 4 going to 360. So we'll just scratch off the first and let you dive into news.
Well, one of the things we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, and we said we'd get to it later, was, Microsoft sweeping out their portfolio a little bit. Microsoft did it with the guys who made Heavenly Sword. What were they called back then, Shane?
Ooh, the guys who made Kung Fu Chaos? I forget what they're called.
Ninja Theory.
Well, that's the thing.
they had a different name
Ninja
back then.
Theory is their new, hey, we're making Heavenly Sword.
Oh,
which,
it is.
If you look at the, it's interesting to continue just briefly on what we talked about last segment. If you look at the Heavenly Sword website in the About the Game does not describe it, even though it's published by SCEA, it doesn't describe it as a PlayStation 3 game. It says we're making next generation games. So
You know what scares me about Heavenly Sword as an aside is we all know I read Edge, and you guys look at Edge. Every at the back of Edge, they have like a big industry insider jobs posting. Ninja Theory always has like the longest list of we need people, please.
Well, I mean, if they need people, they might be able to pick some people up from FASA, because the rumor is that Microsoft, after Shadowrun ships sometime in June, Microsoft's going to close down the FASA studio. And, we spoke with Microsoft, and Microsoft's not officially commenting on it this time. Where this surfaced from was from sort of a disgruntled FASA employee we suspect posting on the Shadowrun boards, and the reaction has obviously been pretty vitriolic on the internet, because for so many people, Shadowrun, not so many, for a small handful of the vocal minority of people who enjoy RPGs more than shooters, on the Xbox 360, they're really pissed that the game is a shooter instead of an RPG. But basically what we're getting at is that it's an unconfirmed report that the studio is going to get shut down, but I've heard from several different sources throughout Microsoft that this is the sort of thing that was expected to happen. I mean, Shadowrun's a game that's been in development for 4 years. Like, let's think about it by the numbers. They've been working on it for 4 years. Another game in the studio that they've been working on for 4 years is, let's say, Halo 2 or Halo 3 rather. Now, this Shadowrun is a multiplayer only game shipping with 9 maps, and it has 3 game types. Is that really an economic use of Microsoft's money and time?
What about the Shadowrun RPG that we were hoping would come after this game?
Well, I think, just because FAST is shutting down doesn't necessarily mean the IP is going to disappear.
No, that's exactly. That IP, Microsoft still wholly owns the Shadowrun IP, and just because FAST is going away doesn't mean someone else won't get it by.
Well, and this isn't the first time Microsoft has greeted a finished product with pink slips all around. The same thing happened to Voodoo Vince. Like, before the game even shipped, when it was finished, the whole team was destroyed.
Well, look, this is the same kind of stuff we used to always hear on Fat Babies, right? But
Yeah.
This goes a little step beyond just culling the ranks to go back down to a core.
Some people are decrying this as, we're never going to see Crimson Skies, we're never going to see another MechWarrior, whenever.
But Crimson Skies guys already left.
Well,
Right.
I heard Airtight Games was making the new Crimson Skies.
Right. So,
Yeah.
within MGS or whatever, Microsoft still owns the IP, so these things will still come. It just won't be this group that's doing it.
And for people who are concerned about the folks at FASA, remember that FASA was owned by Microsoft, and at a company like Microsoft, when your studio gets shut down, a lot of what happens is your talents will get reallocated, and
shuffled around.
You get shuffled around.
Redeployed,
You'll get redealt to another studio.
This is
some
more
of these guys are going to be heading over to Turn 10 or Bungie or
Would it be accurate to say this is more like the closing of a building and the shutting down of a name, and not really, not some greater conspiracy?
Yeah, it's not some greater conspiracy. There will be some folks who will take a punitive hit. There's got to be heads that will be rolled because of this. And if the game's $40, then maybe they'll make money on it.
4 years later.
If we fail, says Howard Stringer, if we fail, it is because we position the PS3 as the Mercedes of the video game field. This is the CEO of Sony saying the PlayStation 3 is after a different audience, and it can be whatever it wants. Home server, game device, even a computer. You read the Wall Street Journal piece, didn't you?
I did.
The same piece where Stringer sort of got out across for Kutaragi.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense from something like this that he's saying is he covering his ass a little bit?
I think it's interesting how he's chosen to position them. I think the Mercedes comment is pretty telling. It's luxury, but
how many people really have Mercedes? Not 100 million, right?
The PS3 is very expensive in Europe, more so than it is everywhere else.
yeah.
Even with exchange rates.
Even with
the exchange rates, the Europeans are taking a hit.
Yeah.
It's £479, which is that's pushing $900.
Yep, $900 ish.
Yeah.
Everything's expensive there, but
Yeah.
this is exceptionally expensive there.
But this is this is returning to the luxury item spiel that we got a year ago. Isn't
that luxury item spiel completely inconsistent with what Sony rolled out in something like Little Big Planet, which is designed to the casual gamer? This is again.
They have some conflicting messages but their hardware and their software, spokesmanship skills seem to be increasingly at odds with each other. That their software mission is definitely going in one direction, and it's a very noble cause. But you could apply their software mission to pretty much any platform if you really wanted to. Whereas their hardware mission is okay, how can we re-justify this a slightly different way?
To what degree do you think this represents a disconnect between Kutaragi and that group and Sony as a whole?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's Stringer and his group. If you think of it like Stringer and Harrison and those guys are talking about software, but they're dealing with the hardware of SCEI and Kutaragi, and it's totally indicative of the schism internally at Sony that the Wall Street Journal piece completely illuminated.
Yeah, that piece was great, actually.
It was
And how much of this even goes, down it burrowing even deeper? How much of this could potentially be like a cultural deal where you have Kutaragi and the Japanese contingent doing what they think is right for Sony, and then Howard's he's an outsider, right?
But this was
the whole idea was to bring an outsider in, but how well does that work?
This was the piece where it outlined the fact that Sony is operated in silos, essentially, right? Was this story?
Yeah.
There was a bunch of stuff. Yeah, but there were so many things within Sony where you are this myopic vision within a division, and even though the PlayStation is supposed to acknowledge the existence of all these other entertainment groups, they were never spoken to. Like, so the movie group was never in the loop, and the entertainment group that does music was never in the loop, and Connect wasn't really in the loop. And
had it been, they have. I mean, we joke about it. We joked about it at E3. The ability to craft a Death Star. When you have all these like seemingly disparate media sources together.
If you read that piece, though, Stringer did reorganize things after coming in, and he took a lot of flack for like killing the robotics group and stuff, and trying to make it more profitable, more streamlined.
But there's still a lot of things where Sony are noticeably absent from a lot of initiatives that are going on in the entertainment space. I mean, do you see the announcement today at the new video initiative from NBC, Universal, and Fox?
No. Yeah.
So the new video, it's NBC and Fox on the content side, partnering with AOL, MSN, and Yahoo to build the largest video download service in the world.
Well, it's a YouTube competitor, and
it's their crush YouTube with official media.
And Viacom chose not to enter because they're suing YouTube.
Yeah,
you're right.
But where was Sony? Where was Sony in this?
Sony would probably rather monetize their own download service.
But what's needed is I mean, like I think the spirit of what these two. I mean, it's two big competing media groups working together, saying we have the content, we have TV and movies, and you guys between AOL, MSN, and Yahoo, you have an enormous percentage of people.
Those companies are joining together to fight Google. I mean, really, they are
right with the distribution and like legitimizing download, legitimizing getting content on the web through as many different devices as possible, of which the PS3 is perfect. And MSN is in there, so you got to think the Xbox group is looking at it. And Sony has content. Sony has issues with its content being on Google. I mean, like this is, it's yet another group initiative where the hell is Sony in this?
That's a developing situation that's incredibly complex.
But again, I mean, it's like this. The conflict is always going to be. Because the Blu-ray group and the PlayStation group were at odds with each other as well, if if the rumors are to be believed. And it's like if you're still focused on discs, and meanwhile your software guy in Europe is saying we need to be all about digital downloads.
And Phil Harrison, your Worldwide Studios president, says PlayStation 4 will not use a disc drive whatsoever. It's back to what we started this discussion with. It's mixed messaging, and this is something Sony's been encountering all along, from like, oh, we would only ever offer one SKU, to Rumble isn't right, to like, and this is that on a far grander like Sony Computer Entertainment sense, rather than just there's SCE sense versus all their other groups, Sony Pictures, Sony whatever, Sony Music, BMG. PlayStation 3, the backward compatibility site launch, Shane, this is kind of like a little bit frustrating, right?
Well, I mean, the fact that like you can't play Metal Gear Solid 2 on your European PS3 is a little disconcerting, but overall, in terms of software compatibility, they did pretty well.
The list is pretty huge, right?
It's pretty huge.
Yeah,
well, 72%.
I tried to print it out, but this is how the page printed.
Oh,
so
blank
it
page.
It printed blank. This was not a tone or low situation. This was a OneUp.com was incompatible with my print request. But there was
many listeners will sympathize with this.
Yeah, God of War and Grand Theft Auto will work, but Metal Gear Solid 2, Jack and Daxter, and a bunch of others, the X-Men.
Wait, are we gonna let this go soft pedal? Because I remember some pretty ugly conversations about how horrible it was that 360 had.
Well, I know, but it's a big difference in terms of percentage of the base that is playable. A huge difference.
The other thing, though,
but isn't the message from Sony that whatever is out there now is what's out there? Where Microsoft has listened to people and said, okay, if you clamor enough, we will get your title backwards compatible. Is Sony going to be willing to do that?
I mean, maybe if people whine enough. I mean, there's only like 115 million PlayStation owners who could gripe about stuff. But
see, I think that didn't Phil Harrison say they were going to improve the?
I don't. I don't know. I don't. He might have. I'm not. I don't know. But really, like, how much time do you really spend? Like setting up your PlayStation 3 to play a PlayStation 2.
Well, now you're on my argument. My argument always has been once you go out and invest in new technology, you're playing the new games.
And to argue against devil's advocate, like right now on the European PS3, a higher percentage of PS2 games are compatible than Xbox One games are compatible with Xbox 360 over a year after its release.
I just don't. I can think of like a game that I play on my 360. 1, 2, and they both,
Halo 2.
They both start with H and end in Halo.
Sure, it's not Galo.
Listen, like, we're talking about the PS Triple. What's the deal?
Oh, God, you had to do that.
I'm so sorry.
Garnet's pumping his fist in the air. We can keep him fisting something. Pornography could be privately possible in home.
Sweet.
Sony, Phil Harrison told quasi-official blog just this. I think that home should be used for a much wider and more beneficial scope than that. Meaning that is
Hey,
referencing
so
pornography.
so in April, party in my hot tub in my apartment.
Shane, are you gonna spend the money to buy the hot tub? Like, if you don't get the one with the bubble jets, I'm not bringing my guy over. But I think that people.
great. Like digital dudes in a hot tub. I can't wait.
You want to come to my hot tub and watch porn with us, John? It's going to be great.
It'd be awesome.
But
Well, I hope there's a lot of chlorine in that water.
But I think that people can express their creativity inside home in a wide variety of ways. And it's not necessary for us to dictate what that should be. However, if someone feels uncomfortable about an encounter on home, it's very easy for them to ban that person from their friends list. So if Garnet's not really into yiffing, right, Shane, you might.
I fucking hate furries.
We have furry night at Shane's place.
No.
I'm just worried that he's already using
I hope I
terminology.
can wear my Little Big Planet costume.
I'm worried he's using terminology already like encounter.
Resistance multiplayer updates now online. That's nice, right? This is
definitely
this news
nice.
Came out a few weeks
New game
ago.
modes.
New game modes. Resistance has. We talked about it. We might have talked about it a little earlier, but that's a game that's sold steadily through launch. It's outsold every 360 launch game over the same
Did you see the
lifespan.
stuff about Eurogamer re-reviewing Resistance?
Yeah, and they docked it a point.
Yeah.
They docked it to a 6 instead of a 7.
Well, that's brilliant.
I just.
Is that indicative of new shininess wearing off?
It's a way to get more traffic to a website. We said debunked the Xbox 360 Elite SKU, which we've referenced, talked about. Elite, is the sort of evolution of Zephyr. I said evolution for you.
Actually, we didn't talk about that last week, and you should point out that you actually know what Zephyr was never like a name for the chip or anything.
No, Zephyr was never a name for like the SKU as we were going to know it as a consumer. Zephyr is a name essentially for the motherboard revision, and that motherboard revision, interestingly enough, is what we reported on shortly after I started here last April with the smaller 65 nanometer chips, which we talked about way back when, and talking about how that chip would be cheaper to produce and would lower the price of the system. Skip's nodding his head. He remembers. But guess what? When you lower the price of that chip, for whatever the fuck reason, now the system's going to be $80 more expensive, you dicks.
Well, that's the big hard drive that's in there.
yeah,
right?
it's the
$200 hard drive?
I believe it's a $180 hard drive.
Well, yeah, because I would say it's 180 because if you look at a $180 hard drive that you would package with the core, and then you just would have a core. If you buy a core and a big hard drive, you pay $480, but you don't have HDMI. And you know what? You still need to pay another $100 for Wi-Fi. So then, if you add all of that up, and I want to play wirelessly. Then it's wirelessly. It's $579, and guess what? For $21 more, I could play Blu-ray on my PS3.
what if I wanna-
What are you doing, Microsoft? This is bad. This is dumb. This is not iterative design. This is retarded. You're leaving so many gaps open in what your plan. There's nothing in these like leaked Game Informer rumors about Wi-Fi. You're being stupid.
Wow.
You can't leave gaps like this. It's what we said all along. It's what we've warned and cautioned against from the very beginning of these stupid rumors. Like, if you don't do it right, it's rape time, and you're raping the consumer. You're fucking up. Don't do stupid things.
But don't you think this is a way just to make a little cash before this fall? When the inevitable price drop is going to actually occur?
The $80 premium for it being black.
Yeah, because like the hardcore Xbox would be like, I want a black one. I'm going to buy another one.
The thing is, though, like the pictures are Photoshop, but the black one does look good, but not fucking $80 more on a. If I could give them $80 and then like just have them send me the black one and I'll send them the white one, I would do that.
And what about the $180 hard drive? Like, seriously, like, I know, it's a special hard drive. You can take it off and carry it. But, like, if you compare that to the price of external USB PC hard drives
God, you can buy
or a
500
laptop.
gig for probably that much right
Yeah, I mean,
now.
like, what's with that pricing? Seriously.
It's absurd and it's a mistake. And if they don't fix it,
How much is the Wi-Fi? It's like $100.
$100.
it's $100.
That's
My
adapter.
Wii and my DS have Wi-Fi in them.
So your Wii is $150 and your DS was a $30 investment.
Another Microsoft misstep following hot on the heels of Vista Gaming.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Garnet. We've got Halo. Just wait. It's okay. Child's Play receives a massive donation, not really a donation, but a massive delivery from Nintendo. There's images that surfaced over at Penny Arcade, and it is just a pile of DSs and DS games that Nintendo sold to the Penny Arcade and the Child's Play guys at a discount, basically. Pretty nice, right? Charities.
Child's Play is one of the coolest, most awesome charities I've ever seen. And then, just quick aside, my stepdad had leukemia and has been cured. So I happened to actually be in cancer centers up in Seattle, and it is amazing how great it is for both the families of people who are dealing with cancer and the kids who are dealing with it to have that it's
Is it this year
really
they've
good
expanded it as well? It's not just
Last year, I think
yeah, they expanded
it's all
last
across
year.
the
It's
country.
across the country now. So.
So it's
Very cool.
It's a really good.
Yeah, there was
charity.
no punchline or anything that I
No,
had
that's-
prepped for that.
it's-
That was like straight up good news for a
awesome
change.
stuff.
It's a really
For a
good
change.
charity.
The punchline might be coming in May, however, when Square Enix holds a Final Fantasy party. Shane says Final Fantasy 13 is not going to be, anything other than a PS3 game. Oh, that's okay. Maybe it's not, but maybe May's the time to announce a version of a Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, I love the whole. There's going to be some Final Fantasy you never heard of before. What the hell? How can you never have heard of one?
I think what we'll be seeing there is a new IP for both PS3 and 360 that is not Final Fantasy.
Is it going to be the Unreal Final Fantasy Sephiroth killing shooter?
No, that's actually probably the sequel to Final Fantasy 11 that's coming out like next year.
Where's the Final Fantasy 7 remake? What's the deal with that? What's up with that, Shane?
Not so much.
Not so much.
Not right now.
I'm waiting for an install base to make it go multi-platform.
Yep.
3D Realms. Hey, this is pretty new news, right? We screwed up Duke Nukem Forever. Oops.
They admitted.
It was Scott, right? It was Scott Miller, right?
Yeah, Scott Miller, the studio CEO. First, we fully admit we screwed up on the development of Duke Nukem Forever, and it's now an industry joke. I laugh and cry when I think about it, too. Our fault is that we set the bar too high, and we tried too hard to make the game beat all games. Beat all games? I'd like to introduce you, Mr. Miller, to my friend Alex Ward.
By the way, it's now going to be called. It's now going to be called Duke Katana.
It's like, is that like the military sim on Xbox Daikatana, right? Or Dyson Raikou?
It's like Daikatana because if you listen to like what he says at the end there, he talks about how we have a new direction now. We've scaled it back. We've scaled it back.
Didn't you hear? It's Duke Nukem's playable on the DS now. That's the direction we're
Yeah.
generally moving the studio.
At this point, I would be embarrassed and worried to show my game, quite frankly.
I just hope there's no like shiny metal frogs in it.
Guild Wars 2 to enter beta testing in 2008. It's time to revise the Guild Wars formula, but one thing they're not going to revise is it's still going to be free every month. So you're
Koreans
gonna pay.
rejoice.
And Ryan Scott.
And Ryan Scott.
Ryan Scott from GFW, though, not so much Guild Wars. Kind of into World of
Yeah, he
Warcraft.
went on. He had a.
He's
Listen to GFW radio.
Traitor.
You should.
Yeah, he got
Be
to the
down.
point where he was
He's
sort of fuck those guys. I don't want to play it anymore.
and now he's a WoW-aholic. Like he
Yeah.
was like 22 in 2 days or something. Like he got into it and was just, getting his Ryan Scott on.
Wow.
Next time I need some meth, I know who to talk to.
Cliffy B wants non-FPS games on the Unreal Engine. I want the Unreal Engine to do good hair.
I say it's nice to want things.
He's got Lost Odyssey coming.
Such a revelation as Unreal being the shooter engine upsets Mr. Blazinski. It frustrates the shit out of me, man. It's possible to do anything with this technology. It's very flexible technology. Because of the fact that we at Epic happen to love shooters and happen to be very good at shooters, those are the games we make. You can do some amazing stuff with it.
Is that your Cliffy voice?
Yeah.
So there, damn it.
Developers need to get their heads together and figure out what kind of interesting things you can do with it. Like, whoa, he says.
Like, whoa.
Whoa,
Speaking
Cliffy
of
B.
Gears of War, I think we made a bunch of jokes about it earlier, but New Line Cinema, the guys who brought you Lord of the Rings, have decided to make a...
Did they also bring me Doom?
They optioned a Gears of War
I think it was
movie.
there. So I think
Gears of War.
I've got some
starring The
names though
Rock.
now. I mean, I've got some names, so we can talk about stuff. It's the script that's that's being adapted for the big screen. Oh, it's by Stuart Beatty, who wrote Collateral and Derailed, or had a part in writing treatments for him. Marty Bowen, who made major sensation The Nativity Story, is going to be involved in the project. Jesus to Marcus Phoenix seems like a pretty good comparison. And Wick Godfrey, maker of AVP, that's Alien vs. Predator, if you remember that movie. And
Could that be a pointer to Paul Anderson being the...
and iRobot. iRobot.
How to ruin a perfectly good Asimov story.
Oh my God, Will Smith is totally going to be in it.
Oh my God, Will Smith, Cole confirmed.
Or as it's known to our friends in Latin and South America, Yorobot.
I don't even have I put these in a shitty order. I don't have a good transition to Bethesda would like to try a Wii game. Bethesda software may have discovered a way to cram. This is a good lead. I like this. Cram Oblivion onto the PSP, but why can't they just port it over to the Wii? Everyone else is doing it. What's the deal?
Waggle, waggle.
Yeah, waggle that shit, Bethesda.
Waggle daggle.
Speaking of GameIndustry.biz, Bethesda VP of Marketing and PR, Pete Hines, who we got to talk to about whatever we said we were going to talk to him earlier, said, it's a great console, meaning the Wii, and many of us at Bethesda have one, but I know that bringing Oblivion over is not possible. We'd have to do a whole new game, he said.
So Pirates of the Caribbean confirmed. Huh?
Yikes.
This plays nicely off of what we talked about a little bit earlier with exclusivity. Take-Two is in trouble. May sell company.
EA's like, yum.
You know
EA's
who would be more yum?
you
I
know-
bet Microsoft.
You know, I bet you that if Take-Two's in as big of trouble as they want people to believe, now what they're doing, though, is they're delaying this financial meeting, this board meeting that they're going to have until March 29th, which, interestingly enough, is
Oh, what happens on March 29th?
there's this thing,
The thing,
like Jack Thompson magnet comes out.
If you've
like
been
this
watching
trailer.
FX at 2 o'clock in the morning, you may have seen
Yeah, it
a
has-
30-minute commercial.
Yeah,
for it.
this 30-minute commercial with the number 4 on it. Like, is 4, the Roman numeral 4, this great big presence, does that mean anything to you? Because unless it says Grand Theft Auto under it, I'm wondering, why the fuck aren't I seeing Vic Mackey in the S.H.I.E.L.D. commercials right now?
Luke, you're just not in the know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the problem. But Take-Two's in trouble, may sell the company.
Headlines to come. Take-Two doubles the double take.
Yeah, exactly. And a week from now, we'll be talking about how Take-Two's financials are rip-roaring, and Michael Pachter will weigh in saying Take-Two is looking very up in Q3
Jeez.
and 4 of this year. Finally, and God, this is a long story. Jesus, why did we make this one this long? That was beige. Google buys in-game ads with Bernie Stolar. Acquisition of AdSense seen as the first step for the big G. So Google's going to get into the in-game ads business. How's that? Really? I took the bus that Google takes, like when Google employees take to work. I took that to a party. It's for Brian Intar's birthday.
Free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it was nice.
Brian Interhardy's party at Google?
No, we had a party at a bowling alley, but
It was fun.
The Google truck came and got us.
Huh.
It's pretty cool.
Maybe Google will get in-game video game advertising right. In-game advertising in video games right. Maybe?
Maybe.
They're
I don't think
they're
it's a-
into ad placement for. They have a radio thing that they bought, and they do a lot of people's websites for them. They're doing a
Yep.
video serving thing.
Yep.
I mean,
And people are familiar with it and they're cool with it.
makes sense.
The
Makes
right,
sense, man.
the right and wrong of in-game advertising is a gray area.
Shane,
What-
we got to take some pictures next week, don't we? We'll take some pictures, give some blog love, right? We have a new blog.
We do.
Oh,
One
yeah,
up-
you guys should blog from Japan in the One Up Yours blog.
Absolutely, that's what I was thinking.
I'm off the clock. I don't know. We'll see.
You douchebag. One
Such a
Up Yours
difference
in
between
Japan.
print and online. I'm like my brain's never offline.
Oh, God. That's a good
What's
line.
the blog URL? OneUpYours-blog.oneup.com. Yeah.
Which is going to be actually all of our podcast blogs. So you can get EGM Live's blog there. You can be able to get the GFW Radio blog there. You're going to be able to get the legendary Thread blog there. So I invite you to check them out because it's like, it gives you that overdrive kind of thing, right?
Yeah, this is kind of the sequel to the clubs. The clubs never really worked, so
Yeah,
blogs.
it's a blog.
Blogs.
So if you've ever read the One Up Show blog, it'll be sort of musings like that and silly videos of us.
So that's that.
Things.
I'm looking forward to you guys' show next week. Actually, I totally am looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a really good show.
I'm looking forward to it.
We're getting chicks. Lots and lots of chicks.
I think there'll be.
I will be mercilessly pissed.
There'll
big
be
chicks, little chicks, hot chicks, ugly chicks, everything. It's just going to be disgraceful.
Well, Garnet,
Sounds like
we'll have to get our own chicks.
One Up Yours, boobs galore.
Yeah, it's going to be like Stern.
And then we'll have the reunion show the week after. So you got a lot to look forward to. Good shows coming up. Lots to check out on both the blogs and boards.oneup.com. So in still a couple weeks from me and next week from Luke and John, that's it. We're gone.